First of all, I want to thank someone who came up with such an amazing project idea. Because if there was not this idea, this project would not be possible. So I'm not sure to whom the credit goes to, but I think it's the team from Berlin and also University of Applied Sciences, Amsterdam, right? But they made it possible for us to be a part of this amazing project. But of course, the idea is not always enough. And it's all about the team who is involved in the project. And all this great team came together to make this project possible, right? I just listed some of the key objectives of our project, and I'm really, really proud, especially after yesterday's presentations, to say that we actually managed to accomplish all of our key goals. We managed actually to establish a very nice and inspiring entrepreneurial ecosystem at our institutions. Some of you actually mentioned that you had no idea what the entrepreneurship was about, right? But now you all have a really well-functioning community of alumni and also of your great project team, and also the partners from outside, right? The mentors, the experts, and also a lot of representatives from the government and also from the business. So I'm really happy to see all this progressing, and just by ensuring a very inspiring entrepreneurial ecosystem, we managed to actually cope with problems associated with our graduates' unemployability, right? And I think we are also making a good progress in regards to this. We all actually succeeded to have locally established associations, but I think the way forward is actually to make this global and to have an international alumni, entrepreneur alumni association. Okay, I think you will recognize yourself in all these pictures, and I kind of separated the formal part and the informal part. I will not give you a lecture about how important the informal part is, but I think you all know it yourself. I was not actually involved in all these parts, especially in kickoff meetings and all the steering meetings and so on, but I had a really privilege to be a part of few workshops and actually to manage to get acquainted to such an amazing team. You see all this hard work done by us and all these happy people after one sustainability workshop. And here also you recognize all the happy and interesting part of our formal programs. We also had the celebration, we had a party bus, but all these actually helped us to create an amazing ENET family. And actually, I'm really proud that my network, which was not very small, it became even larger, more diversified with very interesting people. And I think this is one of the key accomplishments of our team. So I just underlined just a few things that we actually managed, and I see it as a really, really great accomplishment. And we all can claim, all the partners, that we have fully functioning associations, right? We offer very diverse and attractive services to our alumni. And all this great team actually offers a lot of opportunity for new project ideas and a lot of new opportunities. I will not spend too much time about outlining the role of government or the private sector or the university, but some of the representatives are here, and actually this venue is for us to have a very interesting dialogue how we can empower entrepreneurship in our countries and also across our countries. I will just focus on university, and as we know, we all have different experience, right? How we contribute to the development of entrepreneurship. But I think also this great team gives us opportunity to learn from each other's experience. I think we can learn a lot from Germany, from Netherlands, and also from many of our partner countries' experiences. Many of our institutions already have pre-accelerators, business incubators, which actually help students, they are current students or graduates, actually to create innovative ideas and transform them into actual products. And I think the final note really is I do see a huge value in networks, whether it's professional network, whether it's a personal network, and this is a great opportunity really for all of us to learn, to have support, to have trust, and inspiration for many, many new ideas. So I just want to thank all of you to be part of this project, and I think this is just the beginning for a very great adventure on the way to developing entrepreneurship in our countries. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lela Kalbakiani. I'm a member of Kutaisi City Council. I'm a founder of Kutaisi University, and also I work in Kutaisi University. My presentation today was not chosen accidentally. I am Lela Kalbakiani. I am a member of Kutaisi City Council. I am a founder of Kutaisi University, and I am a member of Kutaisi University staff also. So, as you can see, all these three sides are involved, are presented in me, like coffee. Yes. Okay. Entrepreneurs are good for the economy and employment. They raise society's living standards and decrease unemployment in a long term. The Georgian government priorities. Georgia, located at the crossroad of Europe and Asia, the government of Georgia committed to a more inclusive growth process. The government has considerably increased social sector funding and made public expenditure transparent. The key development priorities of the government of Georgia are to foster inclusive and sustainable economic growth, accelerate poverty reduction, and enhance regional connectivity. Sorry. What can government do to stimulate entrepreneurial ecosystems? The diagram shows the 9 major elements that are considered important to the generation of an entrepreneurial ecosystem, but major influence of the entrepreneurial ecosystem have government, business, and university. What government policy we have? Makes the formation of entrepreneurial activity a government priority. The formulation of effective policy for entrepreneurial ecosystems requires the active involvement of government ministers working with senior public servants who act as institutional entrepreneurs to shape and empower policies and programs. Ensure the government policy is broadly focused. Government policy should encompass all the components of the ecosystem. Ensure all industry sectors are considered not just high-tech, encourage growth across all industry sectors, including low, mid, and high-tech firms. Provide leadership, but delegate responsibility and ownership. Adopt a top-down and bottom-up approach, devolving responsibility to local and regional authorities. Develop policies that addresses the needs of both the business and its management team. You can see slide about entrepreneurship in last 20 years. And you can see that entrepreneurship rate was decreased. So improve the entrepreneurship is global challenge. Starting a new business is the easy part. Successfully growing, it is the challenge. What can government do to stimulate entrepreneurial ecosystems? The challenge for government policy is to develop policies that works. They contrast traditional versus growth-oriented policy approaches to enterprise development. The first of these approaches tends to focus on trying to grow the total number of firms where business startup programs, venture capital financing, and investment in research and development of technology transfer. This is pick the winner model and can also include businesses or technology incubators, grants, tax incentives, and support programs. Such programs are essentially transactional in nature. It is not that they are of no value, but they cannot guarantee success with such direct intervention. A growth-oriented approach is more relational in nature. This focuses on the entrepreneurial leadership of these growth firms. It seeks to understand their networks and how to foster the expansion of such networks at the local, national, and international level. The most important thing is the strategic intent of the team running the businesses. Firms seeking to grow need to be given help in linking up with customers, suppliers, and other actors within the ecosystem who can provide resources. How Georgian government can support entrepreneurs? Tax policy, incentives to invest in startups. Immigration policy, make it easy for foreign entrepreneurs to come to the Georgia. Grants, loans, and disbursements to help start a new business. Investment, focus investment in university research. Contracting, government is an enormous consumer of products and services. The government supports entrepreneurs. The government supports innovative startups and helps them to grow, reducing the regulatory burden on entrepreneurs. Central government supports innovative enterprise in a number of ways. Micro and small business is promoted in the regions of Georgia. The government program Producing Georgia, promoting cooperation between researchers and the private sector. Fostering the growth of entrepreneurial ecosystems. What can government do to stimulate entrepreneurial ecosystems? The challenge for government policy is to develop policies that work, make the formation of entrepreneurial activity a government priority, ensure that government policy is broadly focused, allow for natural growth, not top-down solutions, ensure all industry sectors are considered, not just high-tech, provide leadership but delegate responsibility and ownership, develop policies that addresses the needs of both the business and its management team. Promoting entrepreneurship among students and faculty. Now about university. Universities increasingly seek to attract entrepreneurially minded students and faculty and encourage these campus constituents to develop new ventures. Initiatives to promote entrepreneurship and connect campus constituents with seasoned entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, and other industry professionals include the establishment of mentorship programs, business plan competitions, and proof of concept centers. Most robust practice to promote entrepreneurship among students are institutions seeking to enhance the entrepreneurship culture on campus and expand the scope of relevant programming should first invest in development of a critical mass of interested students and faculty. Institutions repurpose the concept of interdisciplinary faculty cluster hiring to promote entrepreneurial faculty recruitment, which is especially appropriate as entrepreneurship initiatives become more interdisciplinary in nature. Administrators evaluate entrepreneurship program success by the number of spin-off companies founded and the success of those ventures. Also, the main objectives. Focus more on case studies. Case studies are an effective method to spark students' curiosity putting them face to face with real-life business situation. By studying past or present corporate success stories, students can dig deeper into processes and procedures that executives follow to make decisions. And this is what a business degree should teach. The thinking pattern a manager formulates to analyze a situation, evaluate alternatives, choose a solution, and track progress over time. Business case studies are now part of curricula at the graduate level, but it would be beneficial for both students and universities to also make it an essential component of undergraduate programs. Link curricula to real-world business challenges. Universities can jumpstart their business degrees by linking their curricula to real-life business challenges. Create opportunities for students to participate in social entrepreneurship contests. There is nothing more engaging and hands-on than letting students participate in some type of entrepreneurship contests. This includes both social entrepreneurship businesses that may focus more on a social cause and tech startup ventures. Partner with businesses. Prominent universities already have partnership agreements with businesses whereby they regularly send students to work temporarily as interns at specific organizations. Entrepreneurship in residence is also an innovative way to foster practical knowledge. Again, this kind of partnership exists already in executive MBA programs at prominent universities, but the idea is to expand it to other, if not all, higher learning institutions and also include social entrepreneurs as part of these programs. Invite business executives to deliver lectures. Some institutions have found new ways to make entrepreneurship teaching more engaging, vibrant, and effective. They occasionally invite business executives and ask them to teach a full course, make a presentation, or share their experience with students. Such initiatives have produced excellent results so far, because students can quickly learn and grasp real-world insight that tomes and tomes of business literature might not deliver so pointedly. Provide consulting services to small businesses and non-profits. Universities can make money and make business courses engaging by providing consulting services to small businesses and non-profit agencies. Conceptually, a professor would lead the consulting team of students, formulating operational priorities and guiding students throughout the consulting engagement. Help students launch their own businesses. In a global economy plagued by high levels of unemployment, nothing would be better than helping students launch their own businesses. Universities can work in partnership with student entrepreneurs and institutions such as the Small Business Administration to conduct market research, obtain financing, and create viable businesses. The student entrepreneur learns in the process, and his or her classmates are also expand their practical knowledge. Emphasize technology topics in curricula. Technology has asserted its supremacy on today's global economy. High learning institutions can jumpstart their students' careers by incorporating more technology topics in curricula. Foster global exchange programs with other institutions. Global exchange programs are nothing new, but the concept has not expanded as it should to business programs. For example, the Erasmus program in Europe allows students of Eurozone countries and not only for Eurozone countries to start a degree program in one country and finish it in another. The concept here is to broaden the exchange program to other institutions, inviting students with varied cultural and professional backgrounds. Encourage student-in-residence programs. Student-in-residence programs are comparable to internships, except that students get hands-on experience, work at a specific number of hours at the host company. Student-in-residence programs allow students and experienced professionals to learn from each other while discussing and solving real-world business challenges. About social entrepreneurship. Many business students are choosing social entrepreneurship, doing well by doing good. Last 10 years, the number of social benefit courses offering at top business schools more than doubled on average. The focus of social entrepreneurs is to find solutions that have an impact on the society. A social entrepreneur focuses on creating wealth for the community at large while safeguarding the environment for future generations. Entrepreneurs drive economic development. How? Investing in products and services people need. What motivates a person to start a new business? According to traditional models, entrepreneurs create new businesses in response to unmet needs and demands in the market. That is, there is an opportunity to provide a product or service that is not currently in existence or otherwise available. Entrepreneurs who launch new enterprises in response to market needs are key players when it comes to fostering economic growth in a region. They enable access to goods and services that populations require in order to be productive. This is not to ignore necessity entrepreneurs that launch enterprises because they have no other options. Both can and do contribute to economic growth. Providing employment opportunities. New businesses need to hire employees. They create jobs, and these economic opportunities uplift and support communities through increasing their quality of life and overall standard of living. Commerce and regional economic integration. Technology has made it possible for small, entrepreneur-led businesses to expand into regional and global markets. When new businesses export goods and services to nearby regions, these enterprises contribute directly to a region's productivity and earnings. New technologies promote efficiency. The ability to turn ideas into a new products and services that people need is the font of prosperity for any developed country. Economic growth, generally speaking, is driven by new technologies and their creative applications. Periods of rapid innovation historically have been accompanied by periods of strong economic growth. Creating innovative products and solutions requires an educated population and environment where collaborative work can take place. In addition to being good for business, education increases workforce creativity and quality of life. Addressing environmental challenges. Innovation is crucial when it comes to addressing the enormous environmental challenges we face today, combating climate change, lowering global greenhouse gas emissions, and the preserving biodiversity in the environment. Innovation impacts socio-economic objectives. Innovative business practices create efficiency and conserve resources. Innovation in agriculture is especially relevant for addressing socio-economic challenges. Innovations happens where the competition. New and growing business represents the principal sources of job creation and innovative activity in an economy, two factors that generally result in the rising standards of living for all. For entrepreneurs to bring new ideas to life, they need access to education and a level playing field on which to compete. In this vein, the role of government leaders and public policy is to create conditions that allow more entrepreneurs to start businesses. Now you can see small business survival rate, and no discussion of startup survival rates will be complete without a clear understanding that numbers vary from one industry to the next. There's the small businesses that have annual revenue less than $250,000. There's still nearly 1 in 2 chance that a startup will no longer be operational in 5 years. Companies which survive, they've established themselves within their market, fended off competitive elements, built up a trained and experienced staff. They learned from mistakes, made the necessary course corrections, form supplier relationships and attract an army of loyal, paying customers contributing to a healthy bottom line. So, about entrepreneurship's pro challenges. Entrepreneurs boost economic growth by introducing innovative technologies, products, and services. Increased competition from entrepreneur challenges existing firms to become more competitive. Entrepreneurs provide new job opportunities in the short and long term. Entrepreneurial activity raises the productivity of firms and economics. Entrepreneurs accelerate structural change by replacing established sclerotic firms. Now about cons challenge. Only a few people have the drive to become entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs face a substantial risk of failure, and the costs are sometimes borne by taxpayers. In the medium term, entrepreneurial activities may lead to layoffs of existing firms close. A high level of self-employment is not necessarily a good indicator of entrepreneurial activity, and entrepreneurship cannot flourish in an over-regulated economy. So, the last diagram about mutual work effort. There's academic institutions, government agencies, industry and entrepreneurship, professional associations, and all of them can make centers of competencies. Starting, one of the best known centers of high-tech entrepreneurial activity has been California Silicon Valley. Also, it is not only a place in which innovation and enterprise have flourished, it has served as a role model for many governments seeking to stimulate economic growth. Today, science or technology parks can be found scattered around the world. They usually follow a similar format with universities and research and development centers collocated with the park. Most have been supported by government policy. However, despite significant investments by governments into such initiatives, their overall success rate is mixed. To build the entrepreneurial ecosystem on local conditions, government agencies, academic institutions, and industries should grow existing industries and build on their foundations, skills, and capabilities. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, everyone. So thanks for staying here. Thanks for coming. And first of all, thanks to the organizers for the invite. I really appreciate that. First, I want to start, and I will be saying that the idea is for this talk to introduce me to how to validate and how to help you, for example, to the fundraise. But let me put it straightforward to you. I cannot give you an exact and concrete advice how you are going to validate your idea, your startup, or how you are going to raise, because everybody is going through a different and really specific struggle and battle, so everybody has its own specific. The only thing that I will be able to explain and to soak into you is that it's really hard, it's a daunting task to try to put up your venture from the ground and to succeed. And so I will mostly talk about from my personal experience, from my personal story, and I will try to paint a bigger picture where you will see how the validation works, where the funding comes in there, and a little bit about the success. And probably I will just give you some tools that are pretty basic and that you all might know really well. So first of all, I will ask if somebody has a startup here. Well, if you can raise a hand. No one, okay. That's fine. So it might be interesting for you to listen to this because it's something that you haven't tried yourself. So let me start by telling you about my journey. So because every startup is a journey, and my journey is really concentrated in going to different places. It all started in Tbilisi, in Georgia. I started the idea with my friend, my classmate, And it was in 2012, 2014, we were working our boring corporate jobs, which we really didn't like. I was like in the Ministry of Justice, my friend he was working in the bank, and we wanted to build something for ourselves. We wanted to build something which would be considered as a free speech. We were bored by all this like social media where you post your Facebook and like you just stay within this small tiny screen, and we wanted to build up a free speech movement. We wanted to use the city landscapes. We wanted to make your voice be heard, like make the stifled people go around and scream loud. So we wanted to actually, for example, bring and put something that you want to say on the Times Square. So it was really kind of interesting. And at that period of time, there was no ecosystem in Georgia. So the building you are sitting right now, this beautiful building and the whole like the structure that it provides for the startups, it was not here. It was not even like in the making. And we tried to really hardly navigate and find the peers, find the people who would like share our passion. It was really also hard to find a developer, so we traveled to Turkey, find the third co-founder, Abhinav, from India, who was as passionate as passion can get, really. So he was like all in for the project. And we didn't know, we started like without knowing how to write a line of code. And it was also the difficult task to like call somebody and talk to them to validate your idea. Because like there was no such a culture in the corporate world as like knowing what the startup is at that time. So it's not that like we couldn't meet these people from the corporate, like our calls would go unanswered, and we couldn't even sit with somebody in front of a table and discuss what we were building. So it was really hard to get along and to try to build something in a system where you don't have anybody and when you are not listened to. And it's ironic that you are trying to build at this moment also the free speech movement. So you yourself get stifled all the time. So yeah, and luckily we got 15 minutes of testing on some like a billboard on a like city outskirts where we tried to post something. And like this was the moment. Like we filmed this 15 minutes of our like the really MVP prototype. We filmed it, we uploaded it on the network, and really luckily some investors from Dubai, they just contacted us. They told us, okay, we want to put some money into you, and let's come here and work from Dubai. Well, so you can imagine that this is the moment we instantly quit our jobs, because like that was our goal. I didn't want any security that I was provided by whatever this package was. So we left for Dubai. Like from the snowy cold February Tbilisi, we just went to the like really Dubai heat wave. It was very hot. And the cool thing is also that from this situation where we got introduced to the really like the booming startup ecosystem. And by saying that, it's like the big difference between that time of Georgia and what was happening in Dubai. I don't mean that Dubai is the really greatest ecosystem for the startup today, because it's really not. So I'm just saying that we got introduced to the lean startup methodology, we got introduced to the heads of IBM, we got introduced to all kinds of people. Regarding our product, it was really good that we started to prototype and we started to meet with the biggest media agencies. Like if you know, like the Dubai is the hub for the media agencies for the Middle East. So we got like the meetings with the heads of Leo Barnett, OMD, Mediacom, you name it. Anybody was on the board to discuss the idea with you. So it went really well. Sometimes you get advices. What I want to say is that too much advices are really bad, and they will really hurt you, because you might hear a lot of people that come to you and say, oh, I'm an expert, or I'm an ex-Googler, or I'm an ex-Amazon. Ask yourself a question, is he like left his job for a startup, or was he fired? I don't know. So, and he gives you the advices for your product without knowing a lot about your product, so he doesn't invest his time. So at the end of the day, if you get like 20 people and 20 advices like that, it's really hurting you. So you have to filter them. I'll be a little bit more explaining this a little bit later. So the cool thing is like we got a really open doors. We tested some kind of messaging on the soccer arenas there, which was really cool. We tested on the biggest billboard that is on the beach, like the billboard was built by Sheikh. It was like 40 meters long and something. It was really cool. But and we have also the successful demo day where we hang out and took selfies with the oil billionaires, and it was really interesting, and they all promised us like to invest. But at the end of the day, frankly, it was like wrong market fit, because like even Coke gets censored with its billboard or with its advertising in the outdoor in Dubai. You cannot, for example, put a woman's face. And we wanted to make it like really real-time, instant posting of the content. So it was not the right market fit, but it was like somehow a really introduction to what a startup ecosystem looks like. So after this, we got lucky, and we got one small investor who was interested and who invited us and who said that I'm gonna put some money into you and come to Seattle, US, and work from here. It was amazing because like from the childhood I really wanted to go to the US to step my foot on the US soil and to experience it, and I would never really think that I would go there with my own venture there and like work on myself. So it was really amazing. This is like me on the day I arrived with the proof of the Seattle Weekly, so it's really kind of cool for me. So it was really nice. I had really high hopes. I thought that the whole like everybody would listen to me, that I would be the rock star, that I would succeed. I thought that I would be the best on the market, but the harsh reality is that you're just another fish in the ocean. Like you sit here in a co-working place where 800 other people are sitting, they're doing the same thing that you do. In addition, you have a hard name to pronounce, and so people don't talk to you because they can't remember Georgi Gurgenidze, so that's already a minus. Also, you don't speak that good of in English. Also, you don't have connections, zero, zilch, nobody, you don't know nobody, so that's really bad. So that's the reality. You have to pitch there like it was in San Francisco. You go and you think that, oh, I'm gonna pitch, everybody's gonna listen to me and I will fundraise in 1 week. Bullshit, sorry. Like nobody's gonna be interested, and it's really harsh reality. So what we did next is we maxed out our cards. Like we ran out of the gas, we ran out of the money, so we were about to like put the idea into the trash and go back. So it was really hard. You don't have any money, you don't have any connection. We like walked all the 8 avenues like parallel to the coast, knocking on the business doors, trying to meet with everybody, but all the time we heard no, we're not interested, and it was all the time like the feeling of fail. Like you are constantly for 2 years in a fail. You understand that that's not something you want to do, it's not going to be successful. So what we did, because we didn't have any other choice, at that time we met, we were lucky to have one investor who was like really prominent investor in the region, like the early Facebook employee who exited, became a billionaire, who invested in 50 startups by like 500,000 a ticket. So he was really great guy. How we met him, it's by accident, I will tell you maybe later. So we met him and he said, like, that's happening when we don't have any money already. So like, you're really cool guys, you're really amazing team, but the product is really nice, but call me back when you create a buzz in a town. So when I see about you in a newspaper or something, when this happens, like, I might get interested. So this became like an idea that you have to do something, whatever you can do, but without the money, without anything. What we did was that we went to the co-working place, we asked people to donate their projectors, and luckily the next day, like 5 people came, they gave us their own projectors. We bought some generator, and that's how it started. It was like in November. It was really cold, I remember. We had like few locations. We didn't ask for property owner's permission. We just went there without any city hall approval or anything, any kind of this stuff. We just turned the projector on, lit it up, and put out some messages. At first, these messages, they were from, these were the messages to our friends, because like we took a picture, sent the message back to them emails, and actually they started to share these messages like really like crazy. And that's how it started. Like soon we wake up and we got 15,000 submissions a day. We attracted over like 500,000 users in a couple of months. And we got exposure from all over the world, from the media without even asking, and from the web, from the publications that myself I was reading from Tbilisi and getting excited all about. And then on the television in the US, it was really cool. But unfortunately it didn't translate into money, into a revenue. So that really sucked. I mean, like you're putting projections, you're putting 15,000 messages, you're really working. You're not anymore like validating and working on your idea. What you're doing is that you wake up like till 2 p.m., you work on your product, and when the sun goes down, you have a job. Like you go outside, you put the projector, you put the messages, you take pictures, at home you go, then you send them back. So it became a really nice routine. And you felt that you were like serving your users. It was really cool, but it didn't translate into money. So what happened next was that in a really, really laid-back situation, we happened to be in the room with the investors, with the top investors from the city. And what happens is that we are about to pitch, and the guy we said before, Rudy, he just comes in a little bit late into the room, pats me on my back, and tells everyone like, oh, I know these guys, they are really, really great team, like, and he says like, I'm standing behind them. And I mean, this comment, it just helped us to raise around 1 million, like without any deck, without anything, because like he was very influential, and like knowing this guy and having his comments supporting you in front of the other investors from the region, that was it. Like that was the success story of the fundraise. I'm gonna say about fundraise a little bit later too. But for me, like when I talk about success, that's not a success. Success is not to close your round. Success is not to keep being persistent. Success is not like taking no for an answer for a long time. For me, success is not like generating a lot of money. For me, the success was like few stories that I took now and I will share. Like for me, success was when there was a refugee crisis a couple of years ago. So now we partnered with International Rescue Committee, and there were Syrian refugees, Iraqi refugees who were coming to the United States, and we helped to increase awareness in the region about the refugee crisis, because in US people are really not aware of these kind of things that happens internationally. We helped two families. We helped one guy who was working as a translator in Iraq, and he got ambushed in a military convoy. And we shared his story. And then after that, he got settled in the city. Like he got friends, he got a job. So I take a little bit of pride in helping these two families settle in the soil and keep them feeling safe. The other story was there was an Alaska Arctic drilling. So you see this big drilling machine which is in the Puget Sound in the Pacific Northwest. And it's a shell that was drilling the ocean floor. And Seattle and Puget Sound being considered a little bit like important player in the ecological system there, a lot of activists went there to protest. So what we did is that we partnered with all the activists. We even projected on the water, in the ocean. We were helping to promote all the stories and all the ideas that these activists wanted to make them heard. And luckily, there was the Obama signed executive order canceling the Arctic drilling. I'm not saying that I take a pride in being part of, like, in making this executive order being signed, but I take pride in promoting the idea and making the movement go around. So it's really cool. There was also the huge movement about Black Lives Matter Ferguson, Missouri. So it was really like you would see how a lot of clashes happening there in the United States within the communities, within the police brutality, the police being racist, killing black people. So we try to project all these kind of messages there, and we try to give everybody a voice. It was not only a Black Lives Matter, it was also All Lives Matter, which is considered a racist comment in the United States, but we tried to give everybody a voice. Eventually the Black Lives Matter prevailed, it was much more relevant. The other story was also during the same-sex marriage legislation when it passed. It happened during the Pride Week in the Seattle. So we had a story of one woman, Rebel Wolf. She haven't seen her mother for 20 years, and she put a very, very heartbreaking message on the screens there, and it was like, "No, mama, I can't be your dream, it's killing me, stop praying for me, love me." So there was the whole story behind it. So after this message was passed, after not seeing her mom for 20 years, they finally saw each other, and like her mom in tears and everything, like cheesy story, but it was really nice. The one which I really, really love the most is about this woman, Cheryl. She suffered from cerebral palsy. She was very active woman, like the most active woman that I probably have ever met. The most kind, like you would read on her door, like the love lives here, come. She was living alone, she was doing a lot of things for community, and she was working as a maid in a hotel in the outskirts of the city. And she had a dream to work in this tall building, the tallest building in the Pacific Northwest, to work for the Special Olympic Committee. And after sharing her story, the coolest thing happened that she got her job there. Like it was the best thing for me, really. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that these kind of stories, like they fulfill what you are doing. Because money is okay, but when you work on your idea, you don't get a very high salary, first of all, and you work 24 hours mostly, and you can't enjoy a lot of cash. But eventually, if you ask me, for example, success must be measured in how much money you get out of it. But you need some kind of a fuel when you work, and this was the fuel for me, like fuel to make these people be heard, fuel to take part in the local community talking and stories. And this is the better success than like raising either $500,000, 1 million seed round, or selling your license, selling the license to the advertising company. So yeah, I'll talk about a little bit of validation, because like that was the idea of me to talk about, and I told you my personal story, but what I want to show you from this personal story, where the validation was actually, or where the fundraising plays the part. If you look at, like, this is really pretty simple, like, if you look from the moment that I exchanged with my friend about the idea of, well, let's do this project, let's make it happen, in Tbilisi, to Dubai, to Seattle, to the launching, to the funding, to the operations, the validation was everywhere. It was a non-stop process for us, because like you have to validate. Validation is not something that you have put on your schedule or something. It must be, it is kind of a mindset for you. I mean, if you don't have this kind of mindset that you have to validate with everybody, for example, when you eat your breakfast with your mom, when you talk with your friends on Skype or whatever, at all the time you are validating, because like you take some moments that you talk to them that might not be relevant to your project, but you think, oh, she might be something, she might be my customer, I don't know. What I'm saying that validation is a really mindset, and funding is also, funding happens non-stop. All the time that you validate, you think, okay, if I validate at this point, I might also get funding, so it's all really connected for me. And yeah, like validation is really a mindset. It's not something you learn, it's something that soaks into your thinking, and it's something that to whatever meeting you go, whoever you meet, agency, customer, whoever, you're just constantly keeping asking and keeping persisting this question, like, is it happening? And fundraising is like a pit stop, because like when you fundraise, it's not something, it's not your trajectory goal. It's something that has to happen to keep on going. And you have to stay focused, and like it's the most important thing. And you like you don't have a moment to blink. I mean, like, because during this moment, if you blink or something, you might miss the opportunity to either get a customer, to either get somebody who would be interested to invest some kind of cash into you. So really don't try to stay focused and don't try to blink, because you don't have time for that even. And yeah, I like that I have all kind of messages on this from the product itself. It's really cool. So validation. I'm not a big advocate for this kind of hardcore validation that is into like the lean startup methodology, because you can use this board, but you don't have to frame yourself, and you don't have to be like really, you don't have to work for the board. That's why I'm saying, if this board becomes your mindset, you're gonna keep on doing it by yourself. You don't need any more like putting post-it notes on somewhere and saying, oh, you know, how this meeting went, or you don't have to cross or check something. You just have to have this thing in your mindset and just keep on going like that. So I will also, during the validation, don't overload yourself with marketing experts and meeting with these kind of people. During my journey, I met too many people who would tell me that I am mentor and I know this outdoor advertising market, or I am mentor, I am ex-Amazon, or I am ex-IBM, and they will ask you for 1 hour of your time. And really, like in 1 hour, when you dedicate somebody 1 hour, you don't have time to explain it into a lot of details. They don't have time to invest themselves that much to understand your product. And they will give you really some very, very basic advice, which is really not useful. If you don't get somebody, a mentor, who's kind of a person who will sit on the board of advisors or who is not an investor, most of these kind of people, they will not know in details what you are doing. They will just give you inspiring and aspirational quotes about your product, which might not be really useful, and at the end of the day, you just waste your time. So that's really harming you. Also, when you meet like this marketing, become an expert yourself and explore the market. For example, like, what you can do is like you can call your competitor on the phone, you can ask that you're a customer, you can ask for a rate, you can compare them, you can say yourself what you didn't like about them and how you can yourself improve it. You don't need for that anybody else's advice, I mean. And always stay self-aware, because like it's really tough, it's going to be tough on you later on when you become very ambitious. For example, when you think that the whole world will be waiting for you, or that you are the better than everybody else, just be self-aware, work on yourself to improve a lot of weak points that you might find, because you might think that you're best at everything, but you're really not. You just may be good at being persistent, you might be good at fundraising, but you can't be good also at like pitching to a startup and writing a code. So it doesn't work most of the time. And go out and talk. Like don't make anybody sign an NDA agreement when you talk to them, because it's not gonna lead you anywhere. Because like the people who are mostly interested into you, they won't agree, or they won't even talk, or they won't even sign an NDA. And this is something that really some startups think that they have an idea which is very serious, exclusive, and like if I tell somebody, they might steal it. Bullshit. Like nobody have a time to steal something. Everybody have their own lives, their own projects, their corporate lives, families. Just share the idea. Just tell somebody, listen to a feedback. And by listening to a feedback, I'm not saying that like do how they say. Just listen to them, or he might become your team member. You never know. He might introduce you to somebody. Like for example, how I got introduced to the investor who made the comment, and which led to the investment later stage. Like, I just grabbed a card from a card pot in a co-working space like Impact Up, and like I just picked my cards. Like I wouldn't pick any random bullshit company card. I saw a Yahoo. Oh, it's nice. I'm gonna cold email somebody who works at Yahoo. I'm just emailing the guy. He replies me back, and it was a really generic email from my side, dear sir, which is a really complete nonsense. Don't email anybody like that. Like, dear sir, if you email somebody, dear sir, expect never to get a reply. So. And he replies me back. He's like the young guy who works remotely for the Yahoo. he meets me and I talk to him, and he got really, really passionate about the idea, like why? I'm just even like, it's really weird. So later this guy tells me that, oh, I can introduce you to one investor who's really prominent investor in the town, like Rudy, like he's wearing shorts, he's not like your typical investor, he invests like around in 50 companies, and I got really, really excited. I didn't know who he was, but what I mean that this really, really random act of just emailing somebody and not knowing led me to successful closing of the seed round. So try out, go out and talk with people, and don't be shy. A lot of you might hate networking. I hate networking, and because like it's really disgusting for me just to go to some place and look at the badge and at the company where you work, and if you don't work at the IBM, people don't talk to you. It's really like, it's humiliating, but you have to adapt to this kind of a mindset also. And like, well, these are kind of not a tools, but yeah, so mostly what I talked about, like you have to examine the validation board. I mean, you have to know this board by heart. You have to keep this board in your mind, and you have to work by that. You have to set up a calendar. It's really simple. Just download your Google Calendar and just put appointments there. Like put appointment, like go out and go to a media agency. Even if you don't know anybody, just go there and ask the administrator. If you put something, just ask your friends. Maybe they might know somebody who works there. Just set up your calendar, because it's a nice to-do task. Like have a list of customers, market players, investors. Like always have a list, because like when you meet somebody and when they say their name, just you have to know who this person is, because if you really explore who are your customers, who are your potential investors, and who are the market players, you won't get deceived, for example, when you post Google somebody. I mean, this might happen, and it's really bad. Also, go out and validate. Once you already know who the people are, go to the networking events, go to the co-working places, just these kind of things. Schedule appointments, get a feedback, try to get a feedback, because people don't give you a feedback. So ask the questions like, what did you like about my product? These are really simple things, but people are not that like, sometimes if you are shy or if you don't ask, you just go out of the meeting without anything. Just so have a really straightforward questions what you want to get out of it. So this is simple. Process the feedback and filter it. Like, is this person relevant to me? For example, if there is an investor who invests in health tech, and if you're doing an ad technology, like you don't need his advices a lot regarding the technology, but you might need his advice or you might need his connections. So you need to process this kind of thing. And then execute, iterate if needed. That's what we did. We iterated the product probably 20 times, or I don't know how many times, because like it was always different depending on the market, and not depending on the feedback from the mentors, but depending on the market. You listen to the customers, and they say something, you have to iterate. And yeah, don't listen to mentors, listen to market. Yeah, because like market is your customers, market is what's going to bring you money, so listen to them. Don't listen to people who frame themselves as an expert. That's probably most of it. Like my point from all this is that I want you to approach and to see that this journey is very different. And if you are doing something that is your own company, your own startup, your own venture, whatever it is, it might be completely different out of what I was doing, out of my journey. You might be working on your local market, you might be developing, you might be knowing it. For example, meanwhile, I was traveling here and there, being like all the time head in the clouds, I would say. So it's different, and even my advices, they are not useful to you, I guess, because like you have your own agenda, you work yourself. I don't know, and I can't give you a really good advice because I don't know what you're working on, but what I want to show you is that it's really, 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 really hard to get somehow to get to a successful part of your journey. And during this whole period, just don't forget that everything that you do must be a validation for whatever the morning thoughts you had. And somehow this will lead you directly to interaction with your customers. Somehow this will lead you to some investors and fundraising. Also regarding the fundraising, it's not mostly that you don't need to have a really specific technology or super MVP, or like you put your code on the GitHub, or really in-depth financial forecast analysis. Like they don't invest in that much. Like You just have to be nice, you just have to be polite, not be arrogant, and you have to know your product, and you have to be like really, really self-aware. And most of the time, investors at the early stage, I'm saying, they invest in the teams. They don't invest in your ideas or technologies, because most of the teams and investments they know are going to fail. And what they want you is they want the connection with you, because they know that you might happen to be somebody successful in 10 years. So they invest in the teams because they know you might fail at this stage, but you might succeed at later stage. So because of this point in the angel investing mostly, don't pay a lot of attention to put a stellar financial forecast or to put some like, I don't know, stellar technology. Just be a stellar team, yeah. I guess I was brief, I know, but I don't have a lot to teach you, so I just, mostly what I had to say is like to share my story and just one more time to tell you, validate, 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 and know that the job is very hard. Yeah, that's it. If you have questions, please ask. I stayed for 2 years. Yeah.
Do you find the investors or not?
Did I find the investors? Yeah. So I told the story like regarding the investment. It happened that first we didn't have any money in Tbilisi and any revenue to get investment and work on it full time. So we had our jobs. And once we got 15 minutes of some screen to test the product, we filmed it, we uploaded it somewhere, and we got communicated by some investors from Emirates. Like, and he told us like, I'm gonna invest small amount into you and come and work from here, like typical accelerator, but we didn't apply for them. So we worked from there. We didn't raise a fund there because, like, frankly, in Dubai, they might frame themselves as the startup place, but most of the time, the investors there, they are really afraid of putting their money into technology because they have a lot of alternative investment opportunities which are much more safer. So they prefer to invest in these kind of assets. So we didn't get a fund raised in Dubai, and we got introduced during this whole period of time to investor in Seattle. And we moved there because like he got interested into the product and he offered us to move. Once we arrived in Seattle, he gave us a little cash, which helped us we have a runaway, for example, 2 months. And at the end of the 2 months, we had like zero money on the account. So that's when we went out, when we started to project. So that's when we made a launch. And like within a 1 month, we were able to attract customers, to get messages, to get media attention, and that's when we closed the round already with with these angel investors in Seattle. Like it was a seed round. But what I'm saying, we didn't had a fundraise. For example, if you read TechCrunch or like these kind of tech blogs, you might read that they have a round, and you might know that you go for a round when you need it. But like the fundraising at the early stage, probably through the Series B at some point, it's a non-stop job, and you need to what?
Any job, nothing stop.
Yeah, it's a non-stop job till you arrive at some point, because when you arrive at some point when you're already at the growth, and when your product is validated, you don't need any more, like, for example, validation of your product. Because like at this stage, you need a growth, you need to build your team, and you have different problems which you have to solve. What I'm right now saying is that like validation and funding is very important for the early stage to get yourself on the ground. Yeah. Yeah. You're welcome. Sorry? Oh, welcome, welcome. Well, thanks to you for staying here and for the listening. I hope you got something out of it, like at least. Well, thanks everyone.
my presentation, and we are part of the team with Alexandru Macedon. My presentation is on digital transformation of traditional economy. So most of you know that Moldova is basically known as agricultural country, producing and exporting agricultural products and processing agricultural products. So my presentation is based on 2 real case studies we are working right now with my company. And these are, of course, unfortunately, I have to say that these are exceptions from the rules in Moldova, because we can say based on various factors, because one of the companies is it's an international company, and another one is a leading company in its own field. So these are exceptions to the rules, but they just show that they are in the trend they understand the trend in the world, and they try to transform themselves in their own business, traditional one. So the first company is a German company, sugar producing company with the entire cycle, starting Südzucker, it's called. It's in Moldova, I think more than 10 years. At least they are our clients for about 10 years or so. And they have a full cycle starting with sugar beet production and up to the sugar producing and exporting. So obviously when we started with them, the traditional way, every company functions in agricultural sector. It means of course they need to increase their own yield. And the traditional approach to increase their own yield sometimes says, okay, we are in a very, say, unstable agricultural or climate conditions for agricultural, and obviously the traditional way, when you just sit and wait for the weather, doesn't work. So they need to be proactive. Second, they wanted the full automation of the process, of their own processes, because it's a lot of logistics, because it starts with the cars, transportation, uploading, then the contract to the farmers, and then exporting and counting, and the partners in the shops and so on. So have a lot of logistics, and the traditional workforce, and they have to be skillful in managing new solutions, new IT solutions, to drive their sales. And obviously the traditional way of overviewing the site, when just agricultural specialists went up in the field and overlooked, and they could not be very efficient of solving a lot of problems, including fraud. I mean, we are living in a part of the world that, for instance, you maybe don't know, but this is, and I also didn't know before they told me, that, for instance, a guy who is carrying, a truck with sugar beet, he may just go and sell it to the other place. They do not arrive to the depot, So I didn't know that it happens, right? So, and it's a couple of tons went out. So when you multiply, then you have a big loss. Not to say the, stone of the fuel and so on and so on. So they need to manage all these risks. And then another way, how do they weigh in? So another factor, for instance, geological, because the farmers and the land has to be switched. They have different parcels. They need to monitor them, and they need to integrate in a single database to monitor all these different parcels, because the contracts will be switched every year, between all these farmers with the company. Obviously, the terrain model. So it's not just a simple agriculture that people went in, put without thinking what they are doing and when. So next was microclimate. So they needed data to be imported from another state agency. So the state agency, Hidrometeo, the weather forecasting agency of Moldova, and they needed this database. And the agency would say, we provide you the database in this format. If you can use it, please use it, okay? So they need to integrate all these various data sets in their own company, let's say, analytical workforce, and they try. I'm not saying they're perfect, but they try. They go into this way. So, and they understood that a big part of their process goes, to be improved by using all those inputs. Next one, they said, well, we need another types of data. How do you can provide us these types of data? And luckily, already for many, many years, about same 10 years in parallel, we've been digitizing and working with another research institute one of the most famous research institute in the area for the soil. So Moldova was famous in the former stuff about the soil research. So DMO Institute we have, and they produced, we digitized 50 years of data that they had on just paper. And we put it in an electronic format, all the land types, so each farmer now having just his registry from cadastre, he knows the type of the land, he knows, obviously he could count and he can measure and analyze the productivity together with agricultural specialists, so they can suggest them which way to go. Plus, obviously they need hydrological or another data just to see what's the proximity, you know, where they can take the water, if they need irrigation, and so on and so on. So what are the types of... So we put this for them as well, and they take it as a service, okay? So we call it, if we say digitizing, it's called precision agriculture. So in Western Europe and US, it's already in a big leap advancing. So we are lagging behind, but obviously, as I said, the champions in their own area, they arrived and they pick up this trend. So they understood they cannot go without it. And next company, which also embraced and embracing, and the next company is already due to our association agreement with the EU. So they've been, in a way, pursued by this and by the framework, legislation framework, that they need to incorporate geographical indications. So Moldova is famous for wine producing. And obviously our colleagues here from Romania, from Netherlands, they already know for many years, being part of EU. Unfortunately, the companies in Moldova, they were not obliged before by legislation, and they were living happily without it. So they didn't have to comply with these new rules and regulations that we sign now, association agreement with the EU. So obviously they started to understand that they can export to EU. They have to perform their, you know, the production cycle, starting from the planting the vineyards up to the sale and putting the geographical indication to their wines. So they started to understand they needed 3D terrain model for that. They need a lot of data to weigh into their business to understand how they can improve. Plus the, you know, various orthophoto or satellite imagery that they need to process, put their own fields, plant. And obviously, they need to do analysis. They put a lot of analytics into it to do a better production, to be better for exports. So we help them integrating all these data sets, and obviously we can say this is one of the leading company. It's called Purcari. It's one of the leading company in Moldova. Obviously they understand, and they're in a very challenging and competing market. They need this, and they need special analysis. They put their own data on general data available from cadastre or from the other agencies, state agencies, which also implement this technology. And then finally, they have their own plantation. They have their own design. They need to design because they receive ultimately subsidies from the government. They need to present in this way that they will be subsidized, and they obviously will manage better their own resources. At the end, we are just talking about wine production, selling wines. A traditional business, but look how much it's already integrated, and they embrace IT technology. This is something that the manager sees, because the manager doesn't happen to be in the field every time, so he has a limited time to be devoted. Real-time data, which is pushed into the kind of dashboard for the manager, and he configure it the way he wants. You know, that's all these companies try to arrive, and then, you know, to use this data without not going into the field. Are they into the whole trend? And I said, if you read the last week news, so even Warren Buffett sold his 900 million stakes in Walmart because he believes that the trend goes to Amazon, and, you know, he's considered one of the greatest, you know, oracle of Omaha, so in greatest investment. If he feels the trend is going, you know, to this direction, to go with the new reformatting, the new traditional businesses, I think we just say we have to learn from him, and well, try to transform even our very, very traditional business, putting in a lot of into the digital world. Thank you very much. Is there a question?
So, okay, my name is Alexandru. I'm representing Moldovan delegation. Thank you for organizing this event. It's very nice to be here as an alumni entrepreneur. My story starts 20 years ago. Being student at the Academy of Economic Science, I was dealing with economy and with IT, because I have a passion in IT, and at that time the internet in Moldova was not so developed. We have very bad speed internet, and the people, they didn't have access to information. And my dream at that time was, let's interconnect all the people in Moldova and let's do internet affordable. So, unfortunately, at that time, nobody understood that internet's how to... So, okay, that time, not so much people understood that the internet is the future of development of our society. Thus, for me, it was very hard to explain the banks, the investors, that we need to invest in this technology, and we need to invest in future of our country. Me and a team of motivated young people, it was my friend and one girl, we started this project on our money. We raised the money from our parents, from our relatives, and we start with 5,000 euro, this project. Now, we have a company, a very big company of more than 500 employees, and we have a 25% of the market share in the Moldova. We have more than 120,000 connections. We have 14 towns connected. And now we can see that we bring Moldova in 2012 at the 7th place in the world of the speed of internet and interconnection. So, what we saw, that you have to believe in your vision, you must have a motivated team, and all the dreams come true. After a successful development of our company, therefore after 10 years of successful development of our company, we start to dream or to have a bigger goals than just to have a communication, a telecom company. We want to bring Moldova on the leading position of IT outsourcing. For this, we have a, let's say, ambition plan. So this is our achievement that I told about. I want to move to our ambition plan, it's Digital City. This project is an IT park that we are building. We start to invest our own money from StarNet. It will be a platform to interconnect our local companies, international companies, universities, and also everybody who wants to be a part of entrepreneurial ecosystem. We started with an architecture, with an analysis and with an architecture of this IT park. We have 14,000 professionals in Moldova, more than 300 companies, and the turnover is more than 100 million. But the problem is that all these companies they are not concentrated in one place, and they are not doing partnership, and they are not working as a cluster. And this is the biggest problem, because they cannot use together all the resources needed for bigger projects. If you want to implement a very big project, you need capacity. But we have a lot of companies with small numbers of employees, and they are not communicating. That's why we found the companies found very attractive our project. So this is a future campus. And more than 60% of the interviewed companies, they would like to move to this project and to be a part of the ecosystem. So the first phase is building A and B. In November, we will finish on our money these two buildings. And now we start already to talk about investments, international investments with USAID partners and with EBRD and with another international funds. So this is the building A, B. Also inside we want to do co-working and places for conferences, for startups. Unfortunately, everything that we are doing on our private money, because at this moment we cannot ask public or government or somebody to help us. But we believe that this will be like a locomotive of, or it will be an engine to start to boost all this ecosystem in Moldova. Because at this moment, our economy is laid just on agriculture, and we don't have too much exports to European Union or to America. Therefore, we want to focus on IT outsourcing services. And for us, it's very important from IT outsourcing to move further to startups. But we want to start with IT outsourcing. For this, we created a company. It's a startup company. It's the third biggest project of StarNet. In 2012, it has more than 30 qualified specialists, and the idea of StarLab was to use this platform, Digital City, and to create a motivated team that will use all these capacities to export, to be as an example for the companies who want to also to export to external market. Also, the main goal of StarLab is to create these partnerships with European markets, with America, and with Asia. It's very important to have these bridges between Moldova and other countries. And StarLab will be the first, let's say, the beginning of an IT cluster in Moldova. This is our vision. We propose to have expertise in web, mobile, and desktop, smart TV, Internet of Things, and business intelligence. All these things now we are using for our telecom company, and we are testing in our environment, and also we can export such type of services. So the technologies that we are good in, it's all the new modern technologies. We can compete with international companies. Also, we want to focus with solution for cloud solution, securities, and different infrastructure management. Being in Moldova, we can manage the infrastructure outside. The cloud services and different solutions for telephony, for television, for billing, all these solutions can be provided by us. Also, the fourth important project for us, it's IT Moldova Foundation. It's a foundation created by initiatives, a group of IT persons. And the idea of this foundation is to raise money to develop education in IT. Because also we deal with a problem of education in Moldova. Unfortunately, starting from the schools, people are not so motivated to go and to choose IT field. And to be an engineer. Everybody wants to be, I don't know, to have a business, but they don't think that IT is an important part of this business. Thus, for us, IT Moldova Foundation, it will be a foundation that will promote entrepreneurship, will promote IT skills, and will teach people how to start their own business, startups and all this stuff. So we have a vision to develop Moldova through IT, because we believe that using technologies we can improve the economy of the country, and also we can improve the management and the governance of the country. What we start last year, it's a project called Curricula. It's in a partnership with university, not university, it's academy from Cluj. It's an educational project being developed in France, in Paris. It helps people or children to stay in Moldova and to use technologies for learning, something like a distance learning. It's a special program of selection, and it's a special program of increasing or developing IT skills being in Moldova. It's a platform for distance learning. It's very successful because now in Silicon Valley they have also they open such school. We are 6th school in the world. It's in Paris, in Cluj, in South Africa, in Kiev now. It's also I had that it's one of this project, and in Silicon Valley. So from 5,000 of students, we selected 500. After first selection was 500 students, and after the second selection, we take 150 students, and now we have in this campus 150 students. We are helping them to be employed. This is our main target. They have to study 2 years, but after 6 months, already 8 are already employed. And the total amount of the project, it's about 96 projects that they already done. It's a real life project, it's not just theory. That's why we want to interconnect all these fields, the real life projects with education and with entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Hello, my dear friends and colleagues. I would like to introduce my friend and colleague, our entrepreneur from Chernivtsi. So this is a really good example of cooperation using the Bukiana Association and the ENET project between of university and a private company, IT company. This presentation will be in Russian, so please, if you need to use the translators.
Добрый день, меня зовут Левинец Сергей. Оказался немножко не готов к презентации на английском, поэтому будет на русском. Название моей маленькой презентации «История успеха в IT-сетевых технологиях в Черновицкой области». Я директор и учредитель компании KM-Trade, там на украинском написано «Система безпеки», на русском «Система безопасности». Началась моя маленькая история на 3-м курсе, еще когда я учился в Черновицком университете. Я устроился на работу в маленькую компанию, которая занималась разработкой веб-порталов, сайтов, веб-приложений разных. Это, собственно, было по моей специальности, мне это сильно помогало в учебе, и еще из-за этого зарплату платили. Когда закончил университет, я подошел к директору этой компании и предложил ему создать другую компанию на двоих, чтобы продавать компьютеры. Это там лет 10 назад было. Тогда было модно и продавать компьютеры, их было мало и было популярно. Продавали мы компьютеры в государственный сектор и в компании большие. Почему туда? Потому что не надо было много стартового капитала для этого. Почти все продажи делались по предоплате. Тут играл авторитет и репутация партнера моего. Вот. Много денег мы тогда не заработали, конечно, потому что это сильно развивался рынок и выходили большие компании, сети магазинов. Дистрибьюторы своих партнеров везде продвигали, поэтому все больше и больше мы уже начали толкаться локтями, цена падала. Не сильно интересно это было, этим было заниматься. Как я сказал, то есть национальные сети, местные магазины давили наличием склада. У нас его не было, потому что денег не было, чтобы это сделать. Мы не могли дать отсрочку, кредит на товар, тоже был минус определенный. Потом появилась мощнейшая в Украине интернет-площадка, без рекламы не буду называть, и она в принципе заявила самые низкие цены, и все это могли зайти в интернет, посмотреть, и смысл просто терялся в этом всем. Соответственно, мы начали думать, что делать, как быть, как бы, грубо говоря, тема умерла. Поняли, что обычно купи-продай не работает, нужно предлагать сложное многошаговое решение. Чем больше шагов, тем больше добавленной стоимости, потому что на каждом шагу можно добавлять определенные возможности. Надо вот продавать вот что-то вот такое непонятное, тогда можно и хорошую цену сформировать, соответственно, заработать денег побольше. Лет 8 назад у меня была встреча с генеральным директором одной мощной дистрибуторской компании, которая там, в принципе, занимала видное место в области нашей. И большая компания, много денег, мы маленькие, мы хотели с ними очень работать, так сказать, вкрутить свой краник в их финансовые потоки. Предлагать, продавать им мониторы, компьютеры — это утопия, потому что я выше сказал, что не могли. Я им предложил мониторинг транспорта. Это была новая штука на то время, 8-9 лет назад, то есть в принципе конкуренции ноль. Он согласился, ему это было интересно. Я поехал тогда в Киев, там нашел завод, который для нас паяли эти трекеры, эти устройства. Нашел программистов, которые писали софт под это, ну, для самой железки и для компьютера. И мы первые в области, в принципе, внедрили вот такой вот проект. На сегодня мы, ну, один из нескольких направлений серьезных, мы делаем систему мониторинга, внедряем в транспортные компании, которые там за границей ездят, это все службы такси, в дистрибьюторские компании, доставка, в сельское хозяйство, вот там в разные штуки, в строительство. Просто можно отслеживать груз в офлайне, детей, собак, все это можно мониторить. Это не только мониторится местоположение, где оно есть, также полностью данные по топливу, если мы говорим о машине, сливы, заправки, переливы, различные датчики в машине, открывание, там, гирконы и так далее, считывать, потом можно это определенные отчеты в разрезе сделать. Водительские метки, идентификация водителей, если там один водитель на нескольких машин или наоборот. Мы подключаемся к, сейчас уже в современных машинах есть бортовые компьютеры, коншина, мы подключаемся к этой коншине, считываем данные, прямо то, что там она транслирует по этим сетям, и это еще дает дополнительные данные, там общие моточасы, пробеги, температура двигателя, форсунка, сколько сжигает топливо, обороты, нагрузка на ось. Это все в реальном времени, везде, где есть интернет, вы можете зайти с ноутбука, с телефона, посмотреть полностью все под контролем, весь транспорт. Это первая маленькая история в истории. Вторая история, тоже несколько лет назад, имел встречу с другой компанией, тоже большой. У них была проблема неконтролируемого роста и как самой компании, так и внутренней их IT-структуры, IT-инфраструктуры. Вот так приблизительно выглядела их серверная комната. То есть компания, которая работала там 300-400 человек, вот так вот было. Это, ну, для меня лично это сердце компании, то есть тут отсюда все полностью должно работать. И мы их обслуживали в плане IT-сервиса. И любая малейшая задача какая-то, мы как аутсорсеры у них, там элементарно перенос рабочего места с одного кабинета в другой превращалось, ну, просто в проект на несколько дней, потому что здесь найти тот провод, который туда идет, это... А мы пришли к ним после, у них там это внедрили, они там выросли и обратились к нам за помощью, потому что так дальше быть не должно. Компания это, она как бы работала, и если бы ничего не ломалось, их бы все вполне устраивалось, но оно у них ломалось. И поэтому они попросили нас помочь. Ихний IT-отдел просто отказался взять на себя эту ответственность. Во-первых, они не хотели работать ночью, во-вторых, они не хотели брать на себя ответственность, потому что не захотели. Нам предложили работать с 7 вечера до 8 утра, то есть ночью. Причем в 9 утра, когда начинается рабочий день, абсолютно все компьютеры, все сервера, все должно работать, как будто никто ничего не делал. Мы взяли на себя эту ответственность, взяли этот серьезный проект, и мы им навели порядок. Вот. И в рамках этого проекта, учитывая всю сложность хирургического вмешательства в ихнюю IT-инфраструктуру, я им предложил, говорю, вам сейчас как раз вовремя перейти на IP-телефонию, потому что провода — это уже все, это прошлое. На то время единственным провайдером, который мог оказать такую услугу, это был полугосударственный монстр, динозавр Укртелеком. Они где-то в Киеве понимали, что не могут оказывать такую услугу, но отъехать 10 километров от Киева и все. Ни специалистов, никого, никто даже не слышал про это. Мы вот тут, да. Я обратился к определенным людям в Укртелекоме и сказал, что вот мы хотим такую штуку сделать в Черновцах. Они очень обрадовались, потому что у них там на пальцах можно было пересчитать продажи этой услуги и, конечно, заинтересовались. Мы построили в рамках того большого проекта модернизации их серверных комнат на Астериксе, объединили полностью все филиалы этого предприятия, сделали им единый номер, многоканальную линию, запись всех разговоров, конференции, возможность, как и видео, так и аудио, голосовое меню, интеграция в их CRM, разные учетные системы, это все стало возможно для них. На сегодня маленькая компания Chemtrade регионального уровня и национальный оператор связи, мы заключили договор с этой компанией о том, что они на Западной Украине будут технически давать возможность для внедрения услуги IP-телефонии, а мои специалисты, мои сотрудники ездят там по клиентам и, собственно, вводят это дело в жизнь. На сегодня компания Chemtrade занимается мониторингом транспорта, о чем я говорил выше, внедрением IP-телефонии, внедрением систем безопасности, контроля доступа, видеонаблюдения, ну и, собственно, оказываем аутсорсинговые IT-услуги, о чем я также говорил. О чем хотелось сказать. Наибольшая ценность компании нашей — это не склады, это не товар какой-то, это сотрудники наши. Соответственно, их надо мотивировать не только деньгами, хотя это важно, но также и условиями работы. Это должно быть серьезные клиенты, тогда они будут гордиться за то, что они делают. Интересные проекты, каждый раз что-то новое. Повышение постоянной квалификации, их отправлять на разные курсы и так далее, различные корпоративные мероприятия, какие-то внедренные традиции на фирме для того, чтобы коллектив теснее был друг с другом. Поэтому мне нужны были подготовленные кадры. Я обратился к своему другу, который мне представлял сегодня, Юрию Ушенко. Он как раз готовит для меня таких людей. И когда он предложил мне поехать на эту конференцию, оно как-то у нас получилось немножко за год до этого, и показалось, что оно было бы в тему тут. Вот. Ихняя ассоциация, наша ассоциация Букиана очень серьезно помогает, потому что все эти железки, я так называю, эти штуки, они высокоинтеллектуальные, надо уметь с ними что-то делать, оно каждый раз новое, надо изучать, соответственно, должно быть определенный склад ума, техническая подготовка, вот, что, собственно, Черновицкий университет и готовит таких специалистов. Вот так. Спасибо.
Before I introduce myself and start presentation, I want to get a feel
a feeling about who is in the room. From what I know, there are many academic entrepreneurs. Any entrepreneurs who are active? Raise your hands, please. Entrepreneurs, active entrepreneurs, the ones who are currently working on a startup. Any who is considering starting a startup? Okay, good. And how many would you call yourself academic entrepreneur? Good. All right, we have a nice ratio of people. A couple of words about myself. I'm marketing and biz dev at Technology Transfer Office at Ilia State University. I'm 5 times entrepreneur, and I'm 2 times intrapreneur, so-called entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know, entrepreneur is, it's hard to do innovations for big companies, corporations. So one of the ways that they figure out it's possible to innovate is inside the big company, people who have entrepreneurial qualities start the business, which will be inside the big business. So that's called entrepreneurs. Here are my email, LinkedIn profile in case you want to get in touch with me later, ask some questions. Today I'm going to talk about business models. Let's start with a startup. Surprisingly, and it's unfortunate that there are many definitions in entrepreneurship that are not strict. Many people, you ask 10 people and you might get 10 different definitions on what business model is, for example. Startup, many unfortunate number of people think that startup is a mini version of a big company, or it's a company that was just started. But how many of you, I hope there are not many people in this room that think this way. No, okay. So startup, a typical definition of a startup that is kind of accepted is an organization or an enterprise in search of its business model, repeatable and scalable business model. So immediately business model comes in the picture. You see that in a definition of a startup, there is a business model that gives you an idea how important are the business models. You know that many, the big, there are numbers from 80 to 90% of startups, they fail. They might fail immediately, they might fail after several months, they might fail after several years. But the question we should be asking ourselves, how do we increase our chances of not failing and becoming a successful startup? Unfortunately, some of the things in a startup world are counterintuitive, and are counterintuitive not only to the logic, but also counterintuitive to, what is done in a startup world is reverse of what is done in a big corporation world. And also it's not quite, if you look at engineering and science classes, courses, you don't see people teaching you to break the rules. You are supposed to operate within the rules. In certain areas, you can go outside the rules, but it's important. With a startup world, it's all about setting new rules. Setting new rules means breaking old rules. So if you don't have inside of you something that is, about breaking or avoiding the rules, then the chances that you will succeed as an entrepreneur are slim. Very often, when you walk into the meeting in a corporation, right, and you see corporation is discussing a problem, how to overcome the problem. And there are people who say, okay, we cannot do it this way because it breaks the rule, we might get punished, we might get fined. And you see 1 or 2 or 3 people who are always trying to invent something, to avoid the rules, to go around the rules. The correlation between these people and future entrepreneurs are pretty high. Now, in a startup world, business model is very similar to rules. So naturally, it also tells you about the importance of business models. Destroying old business models, creating new business models. That's a way to success. Now, what's the definition of a business model? By the way, it was the concept of a business model was discredited during dot-com crash a lot, because you probably heard the joke, right? It was enough to add .com to the name of your company and you would get money from investors. And no one cared about the business models. Business model and strategy was same thing. The definition, also there are many definitions of business model, but the definitions that you hear more often is the following. Business model describes the value of an organization that organization offers to various customers. That's a more general definition of a business model. Sometimes you hear that that's how you make money. It's not only about money, right? The end result is how you make revenue, but it's more to that. It's from the name business model, you might get an impression that it's some kind of mathematical model because there is a name model in it. It's more of a story than the set of formulas or set of rules. It answers some of the very important questions. It answers the first very important question of a marketing, Peter Drucker's question, who are your customer? Who is the customer? What value we create for the customers? The business model should answer that. How do we make money? Naturally, that also business model answers that. In general, it explains the economic logic behind delivering value to our customers. It also can help us in other areas of running business, specifically in a marketing, in a strategy. It helps us to answer questions, how do we position ourselves? How do we position our products? How do we find our customers? Target customers, our initial customers, beachhead market. It helps us to answer all these questions. How do we obtain revenues? How will we defend in the future our position from competition? One of the examples, it's my favorite example, is Fargo in 1892. The president and CEO of American Express. He was vacationing in Europe and he had troubles. Once he was not in Paris, for example, he would go to secondary cities. He had troubles with cash. His credit notes, were not accepted. So he came up with this idea, traveler's check, American Express traveler check, which was revolutionary back then. It wasn't a startup, it was a good, innovative idea within a big company, but it was innovative. Now imagine that. The normal business is you first pay to produce something to your vendors, to your suppliers, and then you get money, right? Typically that's the hardest problem for companies, the period between they have to pay and they get money. Here, in case of traveler's checks, they get paid in advance, sometimes well in advance, in addition to them making money as a commission on that. So people were paying them money. And this money, that the time that money sits in a bank is very important. So this success continued until the next one, which was ATM. Bank machines replaced it, almost replaced it. You can see sometimes as recently as 6 months ago, I was paid at one of my speaking engagements with traveler's check in Taiwan. So I didn't know that it still existed, but it exists. A business model very often is confused with strategy, with business strategy, because we will talk about the reason, but let's say it's not exactly a strategy. The business model fits the strategy, but strategy is more than business model. The reason, and a good example of that is Walmart. Walmart, when Sam created it, they didn't have a new business model. They never invented a new business model. They just repeated what was existing. The discount stores were existing for quite some time before Walmart. In fact, Walmart replicated a lot of the things from Kmart, I believe. But the strategy, their implementation was different. They went into rural areas, in small towns, where the discount stores wouldn't go. So the strategy is more than, the business model feeds to strategy. The reason why it's often confusing, because sometimes especially when a company creates a new business model, everything that is in the business model, I would say 80% of it is strategy. And it also protects this company from the future entrants. Like, let's say Dell. When Dell created their business model in the beginning, it was brilliant, right? It protected them for many, many years, until recently when they started to look to changing their business model because it wasn't working anymore. Since many of you are from academia, the equivalent of a scientific method, the business modeling is a managerial equivalent of scientific method. So you have your hypothesis and you are testing it. Of course, on a less academic way, because sometimes it's just a trial and error. But it's now important part to understand about business models is that there are forces that affect it. And typically these are the forces, the one, very simple and very powerful regulations, or the regulations. Customers' needs change, customers change. Technology is a big one. Competition. So unless you respond, unless you constantly reevaluate and change your business model, then actually one of the reasons that the business models have a huge impact on success or failure of startups is because they don't change, they don't reply, they don't respond. Look at the names below: Nokia, BlackBerry, Motorola, Blockbuster. By the way, all my startups are in a high tech, so my presentation is high tech oriented, but I will try to make it, I promise at the end when we go to the example, to the specific example, it will not be high tech. So look at these companies. In science and engineering, they teach you that because technology that replaced it was so great, that's why they went out of business. Not necessarily true. All these companies, they could have changed their business model to respond. They didn't, and they're out of business. Disruption, you heard about the word disruption, right? When something revolutionary happens, typically disruption starts at the very low end. Even when it's a high-tech, very technology-oriented, it starts at the very low end. That means that companies use the strategy. It's trendy to call it blue ocean now, so they try to stay under the radar of competitors and start in a way that no one pays attention to them. Look at PayPal and other companies that the competitors didn't pay any attention because they started with a very low end. Underserved, they found an underserved niche of customers, and the competitors thought, oh, that's not an important market for us. There's no way they're going to get to us. By the time they found out, it was too late. So the disruption starts at typically low end, enters low end. The demand then that this generates, demand, because of the demand, it allows for the improvements. Because in order to enter low end, you also need to enter with a relatively inexpensive product, and you need to stripe this product of some features. So you need to enter with a bare-bone product. So you enter and then you generate money, you generate demand, and then it drives the innovation, and then the next thing they realize is you are their competitor. So very often you have new value proposition, you have new customer selection, and you have new way to generate money, meaning the way of capturing business, the value proposition. So let me give you some formal, it's very trendy now, the business model canvas. It's a very good tool or business model framework. So that's how you look when you want to evaluate your business model, or you want to come up with an innovative business model, or you want to devise your business model. So you look at your offer, value proposition, right? What you have to offer. Then you look at your customers. You have to do a customer selection. You have to select the segments, sometimes one, if you are a startup, right, you start with one, or sometimes you select several. then you need to put in place sales, distribution, and communication channels. How are you going to communicate to your customer? So there is a link between value prop and your customer segments, and the link goes through sales, distribution, and communication channels. Then you need to put in place customer relationship, how you keep relationship with your customers, how you make them happy, how you not lose the touch with your customers. Then the revenue streams. The revenue streams that come from the customers as a result of the value that you offer them. Now, you also need an infrastructure, right? The infrastructure is based on a core of a company. The core of a company, we're going to talk more about the core of the company, but the core is what creates your company, especially in a startup world. The core is very important because the core, the traditional core, the assets, buildings are, they depreciate, they are, nowadays they're less important than what is called intellectual property or know-how or what is non-material core. The key activities is also part of your infrastructure, what you do in order to create this business model. And partners. The partners can be anyone, your sales and distribution partners, retailers, content partners, whoever you decide to partner, either to deliver the whole solution or have some, or vendors also, suppliers, vendors are also. Now, in order to sustain this infrastructure, there are some costs. So at the bottom left, you have cost structure. At the end of the day, now, by the way, it's not a business tool. It's just a business tool. It's not something that will teach you how to create more. It's a tool that will help you to how to monitor your progress. So at the end of the day, you have to look at cost structure and revenue, right? If these don't make sense, if your costs are higher than the revenue, in the beginning it might be okay, but at some point there should be a hope that the revenues will be higher than costs. Right? Remember about breaking the rules, when we talked about breaking the rules. Now, I don't want to focus my presentation only about high-tech and innovative businesses, because there are certain cases where you create business model because you just want to, you don't want to create an innovative business model, you cannot create. But when you want to create an innovative business model, then you look at each step, the customer selection, for example, right? You want to find the customers that are right for you. Typically, the customers for a startup that are right for you are underserved customers. The customers who are not getting satisfied with your competitors. Then value proposition, you need to find a new way of value proposition. So everything from this needs to be, in a way, innovative. When we look at customer selection, we have to answer typical questions. Who are the customers? What is their problem? What is their pain? We typically have a, when we look at the customers, there is an opportunity there, right? It's either unexploited or exploited. If the opportunity is exploited and customer need is articulated, that means there is only one segment out of 4, like imagine a matrix of 4, only one is fulfilled by competitors. That's when customer articulated their problems and their competition is serving them. But the rest of 3, when customers didn't articulate, the problem is not articulated, or the problem is articulated but it's unserved, or the problem is unserved and unarticulated. These 3 you can fill. So naturally, when you are we're talking about startup, you have to look at the 3 steps beyond the first one. If customers have different pains, then segment the market. Select several segments. You know that there are several ways to segment, right? Geographic, demographic, psychographic, etc. The good way for startups is typically to identify where their innovators and early adopters live to start, because these are the customers who will allow you to survive first years, months or years until your product is ready for prime time. Then value proposition and unique selling proposition. The value proposition, value is the worth, importance or usefulness of what you have to offer to your customers, right? That's the value. The value delivered to the customers results in a satisfied customers that will come back for more, and will stick around. The retention rate will be high. The value proposition states who the customer is and describes how they're buying your product. And unique selling proposition is just a short version of your value proposition, and typically might even be used in slogans. For example, FedEx, absolutely positively overnight. That's a unique selling proposition. Both. There are 5 categories of value, 5 key values offered to customers. The value can be in a product, the value can be in a price, the value can be in access, access to your service or products, to service, and experience. The whole experience, which a lot of high-end products, Ferrari, Lamborghini, they offer you experience that is not comparable to anything. The value capture types is what are sometimes called business models, actually, and this is a way to capture value or to generate money. And you see that there are very well-known ways to capture the money, the models, the production margin, the markup that goes through store, freemium, free trial models. I don't think it makes sense to focus and go through detail or through all this, but these are the value capture methods that have been documented. Now let's look at the core. Let's move to the infrastructure level. The core is very important for a company. The core is what you can do best. And from the core, you derive your competitive positioning, how you are different and how you're better than your competitors. So the core, and then the core changes naturally. So the core, you start with something and then you decide to invest more money into what your core is. And for startups, since there are limited resources, you invest money in your core and you outsource pretty much everything that is outside of the core. So this, yes? The one of the startups, you mean, right? Right. So one of my startups, yeah, co-founders. 5, yeah. Let's look at the Expand. Expand is a company that is in 3D market. So the 3D systems for cinemas that started with cinema. And now it's in education, in a TV. Naturally, now it's much smaller market than it used to be, so it's not doing very well, but it used to be a big market, and it used to be a very promising startup. The core value was always in a technology, where there were 2 companies in the beginning of 3D wave, the last 3D wave. The one company was based on a group of people. Both companies were based on a group of people that came from Tektronix, out of the US corporation, out of Portland, Oregon. And there was one way was a so-called passive technology. The another way was active technology. Now, in terms of core, the way that we always were putting more money, the core was always in technology, design, technology, manufacturing. So we're always putting money into that. Everything else pretty much what was outsourcing. The accounting, well, at some point we had to hire a CFO and accountant, because when you grow, it's not a startup anymore. When you grow, you have to hire these people, but in the beginning, pretty much everything was outsourced. The core was technology. Our know-how, which we had lots of patents, still have lots of patents, but to this day, at one point we had many competitors, especially coming from China. Now it's back to us again with this another company which is called RealD, two players again in the market, because there's been a the market shrank basically. Now instead of 600 million market, you have a, I don't know, 100 million market only. So now we're back to being much smaller. Your core is what gives a higher valuation of your company. For you know, when you are looking for money. The key points on core, you know, your core includes all the learning experience that you are getting in your company. Before we formed the startup, the technology was coming from academia. So we spent a couple of years on this technology, and that's how, you know, the core, it's very hard for a core to appear out of nothing. It usually is a collection of a background of your team members. Remember I mentioned that the core is, you know, there are physical assets and typically, and there are intellectual assets. The physical assets have the tendency to wear out, you know, the depreciations are worthless. The intellectual assets wear out, they also wear out, but they wear out at a slower pace. You know, the patents you get, they have 20 years of protection, right? So at the end of the day, they also wear out, but you are not stopping. You continually innovating. You are putting more patents out there, hopefully. The key activities and partners, right? These are suppliers, vendors, so you always have to make a decision whether to make something in-house versus outsource. And again, core should help you. So focus on something that is close to core, or leave it in-house, and outsource everything else. In our startup, we were making everything in the US and Europe in the beginning. And why? Because one of the ways was to protect against copycats. So we had a strategy. We put out a new product. For 6 to 8 months we were making in Portland and Ljubljana, and then outsourcing it to China, to the contract manufacturers. Typically the margins were high during the 6 to 8 months, and then the margins were low, and the Chinese would figure out by the time how to copy the product. What did I? Chart your competitive position. So competitive position is, it's coming from a core, right? What you are best at. What you are best at should determine how you place yourself in relation to your competition. What do you think are do you think first mover or design or performance can be a competitive advantage? Very rarely, right? If you look at first mover, is very rarely an advantage that is sustainable, that gives you a tremendous value. Because there are many companies that are entering later and they're doing something better than you. A sustainable competitive advantage is advantage that can be maintained over years, and that's also that adds value to your company. The venture capitalists, they look at the company and they look. There is a formula. It's of course it's difficult to put the numbers to duration and to value of the company, but that's a formula how very often they determine the value of the company. Market value is the duration of competitive advantage multiplied by competitive advantage. Now, to come up with the numbers, that's a separate art. We're not going to talk about this. Example, like for example, pharmaceutical company with its patent for 20 years, it's easy, right? You have 20 years. D you have already, and then you can you can attach value to competitive advantage, and value typically determines from projected revenues. So let's go to the example now. As I promised, I'm not gonna be about high tech. So the case study of putting the business model together. We're gonna talk about football club. You know, that's my hobby. I mean, I support Liverpool Football Club for 19 years already. So this is the current manager of Liverpool Football Club, Jürgen Klopp, a German manager. His philosophy is play attractive football, spectacular, attractive football. So imagine that we are Jürgen Klopps, and our task is to come up with a business model for the club. So what we start with, customer segments and value proposition, right? Now, value proposition and customer segments can be several, as we talked, like several customer segments and several value propositions that each correspond to the appropriate customer segment. So offer spectacular, attractive football. Right? To the customer segment, LFC fans. We're going to stay general. We're not going to go into details like where, you know, the fans in England or fans in China, in Japan. I just want to demonstrate the concept. The Liverpool fans worldwide. Then another one is advertising space, high visibility, and association with success. And that you offer to advertisers, sponsors. So we have two segments, two value proposition, one for each. And then I'm sure we can come up with more. Now, let's look at which channels are we reaching? How do we communicate with the customers? Which channels? Sales definition, sales distribution and communication channels. The first is stadium and box office, right? That's natural. We have museums there, we sell tickets. Liverpool has its own TV channel, LFC TV, which you can subscribe to, pay money and have TV. And a mobile TV. Now everything is on a mobile, so they have a TV. For advertisers, it's direct sales. We have several salespeople who are just calling advertisers and selling them the advertising space. Sales and distribution channels, we looked at specific examples, but these can be direct sales or indirect sales. They're also defined by tiers. Tierless, 1 tier, 2 tier, and tier means what stands between you as a company and your end customers. Tierless means when you sell online on your website, or in terms of business-to-business enterprise by direct calling. There is no one between you and your customers. That's typically how startups start. Because that's how you don't lose touch with your customer. The indirect sales are through distributors, through resellers, through value-added integrators. There are several layers in between. For example, to sell to a store, to Best Buy or MediaMarkt, as a startup company, it's almost impossible. For several reasons. One very important, because they ask you for your financial statements for the last 3 years. As a startup, I don't have financial statements, right? So typically you have to find distributor, you will sell to distributor will sell to Best Buy or MediaMarkt. That's why the layers, and each layer takes a margin. Customer development. There is you heard about minimum viable product, right? The first product. So there is a time frame that you go from finding the customer, the first customers, your segments, to scaling, and you typically have several versions of your product in between. So you start with MVP, then you go to version 1, version 2, version 3. The first, customer discovery. At this stage, you might not have product. You might, but most likely you don't. You are just looking for the customers. You have value proposition in your head. You know typically what value can you offer to customers, but you don't have a product. And naturally, you don't have a product, you don't need partners, you don't need channels. So you start with discoveries and you go to customer validation phase, where you have to have MVP, because validation means that you are proving that there is a demand for your future product. So you make a very minimal product MVP and you validate the market. You don't need partners and distribution channels at this point too. It has to be you looking for customers. Then customer creation. Now you already validated the market. You have, it's good, you are moving forward. Now you will start looking for the first you have a product, version 1, and you will start looking for partners, distribution channels. And then scaling. You have to have product roadmap in place, version 1, version 2, version 3. When you develop the next version, what features you add, whether you expand to certain geographies. And then you are optimizing and managing conflicts in your distribution channels, potential conflicts. So the next one, relationships. Now you have to determine how you build relationships, how you maintain relationships, and that's very important for you as a startup because you need to stay close to your customers. The relationship can be personal, low touch, right? Low touch meaning that you don't talk to, which rarely happens in a startup world. It's more of a Walmart discount store model where you cannot find salespeople, right? How costly they are, how they are integrated into the overall model. That's the questions that you need to answer. So in our case, right, okay. These are we're going to answer on the next slide, but these are basically you have to go through this answering the 5 stages. Attention, how to get their attention, right? How to communicate the value proposition to them. Because there is a lot of noise, especially nowadays. A lot of companies are fighting for the attention of the customers. Then the next stage is the interest, how to connect. Once you communicated, you found a way to get their attention, now how to engage them. The next is desire. You know, that's actually when the value proposition validation comes in point. You make sure that you connect your value proposition that they really want it. Then action, then on board, when they're fully functional, and then retention is an important one. How do we retain them? So in our case, we have personalized website or ticketing as a communication, team blog, RSS feed, VIP areas, and events. Now let's look to the revenues. What our customers are ready to and willing to pay for a product. How they're paying for the product. Are we generating transactional or continuous revenues, recurring revenues? That's what you should answer when you take a look at the revenue streams. In our case, the natural one is ticket sales, right? We sell tickets to the games. Then we have channel subscription fees, we have mobile channel subscription fees, and for a second segment we have just advertising fees, so they pay for advertising. And merchandising fees also, right, for shirts. There are several types of business models, and typically we concentrate, as startups, we concentrate on a product-driven, because infrastructure-driven business model is on a utility side. When you pay for gas, when you pay for electricity, that's an infrastructure model. Customer scope-driven is typically retail, banking, corporate law, but we always concentrate on a product-driven, which is packaged goods, software, and media. And now we're not going to go through all the exercise because we need to look at key resources, what resources underlie our business model. In a stadium, you naturally build the bigger stadium, you increase your revenue. That's what most of the clubs do. The key activities, what activities you perform to make sure that the business model is fine-tuned. So to maintain our sales and distribution channels, to maintain our partners, which partners we leverage, which partners are important, which are less important, and then the cost structure. So at the big picture is like this. At the end, when you do this exercise, you want to make sure that the cost part is balanced with revenue. If costs are more than your revenue, naturally you have a problem. And there is no way around this in the future, then there is a problem. There are two key tests that you can do to determine that the business models will not work. The first one is very simple, as I told you, the numbers don't work, and they have no potential of working. The second one is the story doesn't make sense. There was a famous case when, are you familiar with Priceline? It's a travel website. The guy who is, I think, Jack, forgot his last name, but he's famous. The CEO of this company was always in the advertising. He was featuring in advertising. They had an innovative business model. Business model was name your own price. So you would go shopping for air tickets. They would ask you name your own price, whatever you are willing to pay, and we will negotiate with airlines. Now, when this proven to be successful, Priceline became very good business. Now, you wanted to replicate this into groceries and something else, too many new areas. In groceries, didn't work. And guess why? Because the business model was, you ask customers what they're willing to pay for groceries, and then they will aggregate demand. They will go talk with Whole Foods, to Ralph's, to big grocery chains, and negotiate. Or, buy big amounts with a discount. Now, look at this from Ralph's or Whole Foods perspective. Because when you name your price, you don't know, the brand is not known. When you name your price, they don't show the user airline. The airline you only find out later when you fly, or when you get the ticket. Now, the grocery chains, they spend many marketing dollars on branding. Not chains, I'm sorry, not the grocery chains, but they went to Procter & Gamble, whoever is producing the goods. So they spend a lot of money on marketing. Now, would they support the business model where their brand would be lost? No, right? So naturally the partners were not interested. So they failed in a simple area where the value proposition for their other side, for the partners, was not there. So that's because the story, narrative didn't make sense, it failed. When we're talking about numbers, also same example. Web1 was a famous online grocery website. You would order groceries online. The numbers didn't make sense because grocery business was a very low margin business. You had more expenses connected with maintaining the website and deliveries and paying for delivery. So the numbers didn't add up. That's why Web1 is not in the business anymore. Let's look at understanding the business model feasibility. There is two characteristics, LTV and cost of customer. LTV is lifetime value of a customer, cost of customer acquisition is CAC. And every pitch that you make, these are very important because everyone is asking. These are the characteristics that show that your business model is going to work, that you're not going to spend more paying to attract the customers than you're going to get from the customers. The formula for this, for LTV, is typically 1 year of gross margin. Gross margin meaning revenues minus cost of goods sold, multiplied by expected times of customers who you're going to retain, of customer in years. And cost of customer acquisition is full sales and marketing cost to attract the customer, divided by the number of customers that you attract. Now, the ratio that everyone is looking for, the LTV should be higher than CAC at least 3 times, and 3 times is understatement. Typically, they're looking for more. The investors or your partners are looking for more. Basically, you can look at this as a stripped-down version of profit and loss analysis statement, stripped down to 3 basic items: the revenue, the variable expenses, and the fixed expenses. Your revenue and variable expenses are featured in cost of customer acquisition and LTV. The fixed expenses, they're not captured. The fixed expenses are overhead, rent, and others, the fixed ones. Now, if your LTV is not 3 times higher than CAC, 3 or more, then the chances are you also need to add fixed expenses, right? The chances are that your business model will not make economic sense. What it also helps investors and you to understand, if I continue at the same scale, scaling my business at the current unit economics, will it be feasible at some point? That's what you answer with your business model and the numbers. That's it for today. Any questions, feel free to ask me or ask later via email. I'll be more than happy to help. Questions?
When you start your startup, you are a small team. What kind of activities, because you cannot cover all the activities as a big business, what are the most important activities for startups?
The most important ones are to generalize, and then I can give you a concrete example, to generalize that are closer to your core. That's why it's very important to determine what's your core. In our case, everything that was connected with design, development, and technology was our core, because we were engineers basically who started the company. So everything that was connected, we were trying to help to hold a close control. Everything else, accounting, it was outsourced until, I don't know, 8 months. For the first 8 months, it was outsourced. Lawyers, it was outsourced. Well, I assure you did the right calculation, because outsourcing is typically the reason to outsource, because it's less expensive. Naturally, the lawyers, let's look at lawyers, IP protection. IP protection was very important for us, but in the beginning, to have a lawyer, the good lawyer in our company, was more expensive than to outsource. But it changed very quickly, because the amount of patents we were generating were so big, and then it started to grow, and we had to hire to hire the good attorney, to hire a good accountant, to hire good people that will be in your company. That's, first of all, it's very expensive, and then second is the mistake can be very costly, especially in the beginning. That's why I always go for outsourcing. However, my situation can be different, because all the startups were in the US. You know, in other countries it can be a different. You know, for example, here it might make sense it will be cheaper maybe cheaper if you hire the people. So I'm not sure.
That problem with liquidity, I mean, it's not about sales. The same thing happens with Dell, for example. They had too much sales and they didn't have enough liquidity to catch up. So eventually they developed the model, they lost the market share, but they survived and they'll stay solvent. So we have software business maybe is different. So we have problems with liquidity.
Well, what do you mean by liquidity? Liquidity, I know when you. Oh, you mean the operating? Yes, this is a big problem, especially most of the startups were in hardware business. So the operating cash requirements are very high. You produce goods and then you get paid in 120 days on average. So we had a big problem with operating, but this was problem only in the beginning. If the sales are high, then. Right, especially in the beginning, it was especially after post-Avatar, because Avatar came, it was huge success. Every theater was rushing to install the 3D system. We had a lot of orders and we didn't have money, but we found an investor. We were lucky and found an investor. Typically, investors are very, very hesitant to finance the operating expenses. You know, the working capital. I'm sorry, it's called working capital. They are very hesitant, but we found an investor, angel investor, who did it. But that's a big problem for hardware startups, especially.
Another question. There are two ways actually to improve that ratio, Either you increase your revenues compared to costs, or you have ratio less than 1, but number of years, let's say 5, and getting to this ratio. So what is typical statistics in this field? What contributes to this ratio more? I mean, let's say longevity of the customers or the cost efficiency?
The cost contributes more. As you go, as you progress, right, naturally it becomes easier. And one of the reasons it becomes easier is it works on both sides, on the cost side and revenue side. On the cost side, you get more leverage with your suppliers. They know that you are a success already. They are more willing to give you, to extend the terms. We started with a prepayment for all our suppliers. Now we have net 60 days, net 60 terms with all our suppliers. Some net 30, but net 60 is common. And the same on the other side. We started with net 120. We went to net 90, net 60, net 30. So it also in the beginning it's very difficult, and the ratio can be huge. So it's a chicken and the egg problem, but at some point you have to solve it. Typically. Thanks. Another thing that I forgot to mention, how important business models are. If you don't change the business model, if you don't constantly analyze the business model, actually one of my examples are countries. Even in country cases, you can see, look at Japan, like the example of Japan. Japan at one point had a very big advantage in terms of manufacturing pretty much everything. They introduced their philosophy of just-in-time manufacturing, high quality, and I know this because we were making the product for Japanese for pretty much everyone, JVC, Mitsubishi, Sony, Panasonic, but they failed to respond to the changed conditions. The Taiwanese, Koreans, Chinese, they figured out how to make the quality stuff. They figured out how to make it cheaper, and Japan failed to reply. And we see the consequences of this. Japan still maintains the lead in the areas with high machinery where the quality is important, where the importance of design and engineering and manufacturing being closely together, talking to each other, important, but they failed to reply. The consumer electronics field is not theirs anymore. It's all Korea and China. In cars, so far they have an edge, but I don't know for how long they will continue. So the business models are important not only in the companies, but in a country. And of course there are differences, but still it can boil down to it simple, not replying to the challenges with your business model.
My name is Dmitro. The short name is Dima. It's better to call me Dima. I am from Ukraine. I'm Ukrainian entrepreneur. I'm 25 and I'm making business in Ukraine for 5 years. And yesterday we were talking about flexibility, like the main skill of entrepreneur. And today I want to share with you our project. Our project Startup Ukraine, what we make in Ukraine, how it works. And I think it must be useful for universities because we educate people and help them to create business in Ukraine. Is there any universities in here? Raise your hand. Okay, so we have a couple universities. I think it will be useful for Ukrainian universities. So please share your time. Please be attentive. Okay, so Startup Ukraine is an educational center for entrepreneurs. And we educate people, help them to create their businesses in Ukraine. We're not university. Nobody give us money. We're a private company. And our dream is to develop entrepreneurial culture in Ukraine. We have a mission to develop this culture and create a critical mass of entrepreneurs in Ukraine to start great changes in our country, because we believe that only entrepreneurs can create good future in every country, in every world. So that is why we are doing this. This is not for money, but really for making our country great to live in and to make our children happy. there. Because now we only started to develop our country. It's young, it's 25 years old, and it was totally destroyed by the Soviet Union. So everything Ukraine have now, it's made for 25 years. Okay, our big hack, for those who maybe don't know this meaning, it's like big goal that is hard to achieve. For us, it's to educate 1 million people, not only Ukrainians, but we believe that, I don't know why we choose this number, but it's cool, 1 million people to educate. Yeah, I think it's really good, but yeah, it's ambitious, yeah, and hairy. Okay, yeah. So we are at 3.5 years on the market, on Ukrainian market, and we educate people. For this 4 years, we educated almost 14,000 people. It's like our clients, people who went through our projects. Oh, hopefully Anna is here. We had to present together as she was in taxi. Yeah. Okay, so we will talk together, and you will continue about how it starts everything. Okay. Yeah. So we educated almost 14,000 people in Ukraine and helped almost 2,000 businesses, people to create almost 2,000 businesses in Ukraine. So actually we are doing a job that government and university had to make, but nobody make it, so we make it. This is how it works. Okay, we organized for these 4 years more than 200 events, and I think maybe almost 3, because 300, we have a little bit problem with counting everything that we done, because we sprint, we're almost running. Okay, and this is a photo from a graduation of one of our leading product, Start Your Business. It's 3 months complex program that help people to create their business from idea, from zero to success business. And here I will show some things that we use, what we organize, what event we do, and maybe it will be useful for you. We make all the time a lot of graduations because people love emotions. So every program, every group, they have great party, great graduation to share this moment with others. And this graduation helps, it's like our marketing instrument, which help us to find new clients, because people share their emotions with their friends. We make lots of parties, because entrepreneurs, they are lonely people, really, because they have their team and they need parties. So we make a lot of parties for them, where they understand that they're not alone. There are lots of such people with the same problems, and they just hang out. And I think the 50% of success of entrepreneurs on this, making these parties. Also, we organize quests, because to be entrepreneur is it's to move, it's to run. So you don't need to sit with your computer somewhere else. You just have to go to the city, speak with the market, speak with customers. That is why we organize different quests for people and show that entrepreneurship is multicultural, and you can make a lot. And also why we do this, because we want to create help people to understand what is entrepreneurship and what is business. Because in Ukraine, business, it's like just for making profit. And entrepreneurship is for making real changes in the world. So that is why we're doing this. Also, all the time we celebrate birthdays with cakes, make a lot of parties, and travels. According to our surveys, 90% of people become entrepreneurs to travel. Yeah, they thought that they will be independent if they make their own business. It's not true. They become even more dependent, have less time, but people come to entrepreneurship just for travel. So we make travels And with guys, Anna was in this trip to Italy when the group of Ukrainian entrepreneurs were in Italy. Yeah, so more than 60,000 people are watching on us and follow on our social networks. So we have really great awareness in Ukraine, especially in Kiev. We published a book more than 1 year ago. Yeah, so we published a book, and it sells goods, and lots of people. It costs $10. Lots of people launch their own businesses just after this book, because there's no theory. It's all the practical information based on experience of our alumni and our mentors and speakers. Not long ago, we launched online education, because our great big hack, 1 million people, we can't make this 1 million people without online, because it's the only business model which can help us to reach these people. So how it started, and to talk about this, how it started, I want to give the mic to Anna, because she founded Startup Ukraine 5 years ago, almost.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. How it was started? It was started from a dream. I'm a real entrepreneur, and I believe that everything can be successful if you are doing it with passion, from your dream, from your heart, and it's what the main for entrepreneur. And in 2011, I always thinking how I can change my country, what I can do. As Dima said, that we are doing government and universities job, it's really true. And I was thinking, okay, what I can do for my country to make real changes. And I understood that it must be education, because I believe in two things, entrepreneurship and education. And I started to research market. We have nothing in 2011 around entrepreneurship, special, around non-formal education. And we just have business schools, MBA business schools, and nothing else, no success stories, master classes or events. And we really first who did it were we. In 2012, we found our first place. It was the first co-working space in Ukraine, Kyiv Working, where also based our office of Startup Ukraine. And then we organized first business camp Made in Ukraine, and we were first who started to talk about Made in Ukraine as a brand, that you can start your business in Ukraine. It's possible, because in 2011 people looking at me, what a business in Ukraine, Anna? Well, let's move to US and do business there. Startups is there, not in Ukraine. And we started this from scratch, saying that it's possible to make business in Ukraine. Here's the people, successful entrepreneurs, that role models, and you can see that they started also from scratch, because I also believe that people need to see other people that they did, and they normal, they not, I don't know, some just Elon Musk's, they normal, and they started their business and they're successful. And that's why, like, one of our models in education, especially on all our events, it's entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. Even in courses, we have no professors, experts, just experts. We have just entrepreneurs. Maybe 1% is expert if we know that this is like good person in, I don't know, in Instagram, we invite. And even this girl that working in our course, she has now her own business and starting her own campaign in Instagram and SMM. Next is our course. It's our first graduation, first group started business. And you see the Forbes cover. One of these guys that were on our course, here he is. He was on Forbes cover. We are helping our entrepreneurs, our alumni, not just by education or community. We're helping them with PR. If journalists, some magazines asking, do you have entrepreneur this age or do you have in this field? We're sure helping, and how our entrepreneurs alumni became like more famous and more popular in Ukraine. Next, we also thinking about teenagers, and because I believe that we need to work on entrepreneurship with kids, and with teenagers. That's why we created Startup Teen, and we have preferentation school. It was working like preferentation and camp in entrepreneurship, and especially in leadership skills. And it was amazing to look how kids started to understand how to start, that I can do it even if I'm 14 years old, and I can try. And it's amazing to see how kids are creative and what they're starting to think that they can. This is the main, that inside what we talk about, yeah, that they understood that they have strengths to start. And this is next slides. It's more about what we are using also in our system and our courses. But main, what I want also to say, that everything was started from a dream, from $1,000, and we never have investments from other parties or from government or from some companies support us, some Ernst & Young and Cisco, but they support as a companies as for some events. The main what is inside like Startup Ukraine, and I believe that must be in education, it's that we are working on their strengths, on their beliefs, because in the end we graduated 22nd, yeah? We started business 22nd group 3 days ago, and what they always, they ask, what you came here, what you took, and what next will be in your life. And always they said that they go from our course with courage and with belief that they can, and even sometimes it's not so important skills. They said that now we know algorithm and it's easy to start. The main, they know algorithm. But they always said that important is community, people with whom they were on the course, and also that they now can start and they believe in this. Yeah, this is the main. Education giving strengths, and the education is like instrument to develop personality and to develop personality. Next, you want to tell about what we are using on Start Your Business? Yeah? Okay. Next, it's more about some instruments for you, what you can use at university, or even maybe someone who is an entrepreneur, I don't know, can use it for communication at your company, but more it's free tools, what you can use and to be more effective with your education, yeah?
So we don't have a lot of time, so we don't share all the tools that we use. But we choose a couple of them that are really effective. First, we use Telegram messaging chat. Every group, every event supports with this chat, and all people that gathers in this chat. We started to do this when first we didn't use chats, but then groups, they start to create their chats by themselves. So we understood that we need to be to lead this process. So now we're trying to lead every process that in our company, in our educational process. So we use chats, and actually this is the future, because social networks will die in future, maybe 10 years or maybe less. Even if you use Facebook, you see how the Facebook Messenger develops right now. So because they try to gather us there, because Facebook now, there's too much rubbish, too much information, so we will use messengers. Also, we use, yeah?
Why should we use Telegram instead of WhatsApp?
Okay, because it's faster, greater design, there cool infrastructure inside to store files, so it replaces in our company 80% of using email, because we store files there. You can mention people like on Facebook, you can use hashtag and so on, and also there are lots of things how to you look through internet through the Telegram and don't use browser and so on. There are lots of you can Google, or maybe I'll find an article about 150 advantages using Telegram. Yeah, it's a very cool thing. Yeah. Also, we use Facebook to give our people, our students, to communicate with mentors, to communicate with each other. We store their online, we store their homeworks, all useful information, surveys, all the communication that not instant is on Facebook. And also we are very flexible. So sometimes if we see new opportunity, new mentor, new expert in our field, we create online translations free for our students, just for them, not to waste time on transportation and for us to rent like a flat or something to make this event. So we use Facebook for online translation. We use Google Drive to store all the files, schedule, contacts, video records. Every class is recorded on video. So if you was absent, you can watch the classes online, and all the presentations are stored there. And also we understood that we have to use ratings. Also, according to our surveys, ratings, 90% of people, they're motivated by ratings. But if it's just rating like this, they're not motivated. So you have to give prizes for winning. And it's strange, but people are really motivated because of this. And all these instruments, all this stuff that I said, it's free of charge. You can use it in your educational process. It's flexible, and you don't have to have special knowledge to use the things. And actually, for universities, you have to be acknowledged in new innovations and new these tools, because all the students, they're using it. So if you want to gather around you great people, you have to be on the wave, you have to be modern, and if not, you just lose all the potential that is on the market. Yeah. Also, we use workbook. I think Anya can tell more about this workbook. It was made by our alumni, and now we are clients of her.
Yes, this is a workbook that created specially by us for our participants. We like, as Dima mentioned, we like to use services of our entrepreneurs, of our alumni. We're supporting them, not just PR, we're supporting them as first clients. We're starting to buy their products or their services. And this is really a useful book. It's inside a lot of information, a lot of templates or a lot of things to help them more, not to find information around in the internet, but the best information are inside the workbook. Also, as I told you, that we are like entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs, and our like education system. And now we have not just speakers and as entrepreneurs. Now we add to our courses mentors. Now we want to try to be more effective. What we are doing during these 5 years in October 5, we add to course always something new. If speaker is not okay for group, we will change it, change him. If program we see that useful to put this topic higher, this down, or delete some, we will, because we listen to our clients. And one of the ideas was to bring mentors, special people who will be working especially with each entrepreneur, like with each participant on its own niche, yeah. And always we also, what we have during education, it also consulting sessions sessions for each participant on main topics like idea, MVP, finance, and marketing. The main 3-4 topics that always not so easy for person to develop themselves. They can work with experts, with speakers like who is like our consultants, and to work more on their idea and to be close more with our clients. And one of the ideas was, one of my dreams is when during the course, all speakers will be just our alumnus. And now we invite 8 mentors, and they are alumni from our course or from our business camp. And people don't need content, it's free on the internet, it's really true. They need algorithm, they need support, they need control, and they need community. For me, it was always like strange, why they need control? You come to your course, you want to start a business. Why you're not doing your homework, you know? But I know this is maybe something inside us from university or from school that you don't want to do your homework. And that's why we control them. That's why we give these ratings. That's why we give prize. That's why we make Telegram, Facebook group, closed group, especially for control and for motivation, because it's true, information is internet, but this is the main, what education and what our Startup Ukraine community give to people that come to us to start their business. And don't wait, start, create. We always said that it's like our motto that if you wait, somebody else will do. That's why you need to start and be first. As we, like 5 years ago, we were first on the market, and now we are thinking about what we need to add more to the business. We want to work already with entrepreneurs. We will start new course, Update Your Business. As I told yesterday, that one thing to start, another thing to manage your business. That's why now we want to help entrepreneurs to manage and to fill in gap when you're a start and you know what to do with skills that, okay, what I need to do next and how I can develop my business to next level. That's what we want to start also in this year.
I want to add that the main thing in our programs, educational programs, that we are not about theory. We're about this quote, don't wait, stop, create. So we encourage people to start making their own businesses in the process of learning. And not a couple groups before, our alumni Lev, he created his street business, like street food business, just in 40 days after starting of the course. And because he understood that if he will provide and implement all the information that he received on courses and instantly to make it in his own business, it will be more effective. So now we're all about this. Don't waste, stop, create.
I want to add about courses. It's important also for universities to understand that we have a 3 months course. It's enough to start a business. In 3 months, if you go three times per week, 3 months, you will start a business. And we have such stories as Lev or other Marsala, or not Marsala shoes manufacturer. She started it in 3 months. After 3 months, she entered the market. Don't make long programs, very long programs, because entrepreneurship is about energy, it's about start, it's not about classes during the 2 years. That's why we are doing it 3 months and people really starting their business. Yep. Yes, thank you. If you have any questions, we will be ready to answer.
One question. During these 2 days, we've been talking about the triangle of government and business, entrepreneurs and universities. Have you been noticed by now by government and universities, and in what way?
If to talk about government, no. I was volunteer, it was 1.5 years, I was volunteer in a team that's developing strategy of SME development in Ukraine. Before 2017, we have no strategy about SME before, never. That's why just first point. And our government, because of situation that we have in Ukraine, they not now focusing on entrepreneurs. It's never been as a focus that entrepreneurs are really people that developing your country. Unfortunately, for now, we're trying to work with them, but it's hard. And with universities, we trying to help as a speakers. We always come to university as a speaker and working with students. And we have idea to make a special program, Startup Youth, for students, for youth. But as youth cannot pay fee for this, we're thinking how it can work for free. That's why it's just now an idea and it's on like in a paper, not in life.
Also now we are negotiating with Kroc University to implement a program for youth, for students of entrepreneurship. Yeah, and for us it will be our MVP to create our own university in the future. Yeah, because we do what the government should do. So.
Related to the question I have a question. In 5 weeks, this group of airmen will meet again, not a complete group, but representatives of the partners, universities, and our group will be representatives of government, mainly ministries. My question to you is, so you are young people, you are our customers, you are our target. Give me your questions. How universities will support you, not compete you, but support you, and how government, so let's say ministries of all perspectives, maybe local government, or chamber of commerce, how will they support you?
Okay.
With your demands that we can
okay.
work on?
I think I have the only request that I noticed here, that actually nobody believes and don't know that our generation can make it. That young people can create and make great changes in the world. And now we are like ghosts. Nobody see us. Yeah, of course, sometimes, you know, if you like making an event, something like this, you have to have like 15% of young people, and that's all. So my request is just to be ready, just to see this opportunity to work with young people. So yeah.
And I can add to this that chambers of commerce are not so supportive, especially for young entrepreneurs. And I can tell you that on our courses, we have no students. We have, during 5 years, we have just 4 students. People that come to us, our audience is 25, 35, when they are ready to pay. And what local governments and university can do, they can PR entrepreneurship. It's one of the things that they're not telling that entrepreneurship is good, that it's cool to be entrepreneurs. Start. They are telling you need to go to the work, to corporate sector, you need to know how to be like this, you will be controlled, no entrepreneurship, no proactive mindset. This is what we need to change.
Okay, that's good.
Ой, там еще 2 questions. Или это comment?
Я хочу сказать, что вы немножко ошибаетесь.
По поводу?
По поводу торгово-промышленных палат.
Окей.
Если вы живете в Киеве и не знаете программы палаты Украины и Киевской палаты, то не надо так оккультно говорить.
Thank you for your comment that I don't know information about chambers. I know information about chambers, and I work with Gennady Chizhikov, director of TPP Ukraine, main chambers of commerce, and he are doing great job. But they not work. I said just one thing: they don't working with young entrepreneurs. They're working with older entrepreneurs from 40 years old and older. This is what the main I said. I know that chamber is doing great job with different projects, especially for women entrepreneurship. I was part of this as an entrepreneur and working with chambers, ETF, Education Training Foundation, I think. Yeah, and I will go to Turin in June to participate in their also conference there. And great co-project that Chamber is doing with Chamber's small city, I don't remember in which city it was, but small city in Ukraine. and they doing it with Latvia. It's perfect, but they're working with older people. That I said to work and add to Dima, that we need to work with younger.
Я прошу прощения, если вы считаете, что торгово-промышленная палата, если в течение каждого года по месяцу учат студентов и молодежь, это не работа с малыми предприятиями молодежи, по стартапам, ну тогда вы правы.
Okay, thank you for your comment. There was a question. The main content is from, it's 7 modules, and it's starting from idea, how to develop your business, then it's more about then product, then marketing, then finance. Before and inside marketing and sales is lean startup MVP, then sales, and then team, and then taxes and organizing your business. Yeah.
The main thing, because this content, it's not the main thing, because yeah, it's basics, but we create ecosystem where you receive this courage to start and doing whatever happened.
But it was more about
yeah.
And one of the things that I want to add also, that we have our own philosophy how to start a business. Yes, we believe with business with soul. It's even that we have like philosophy that we are saying. What did we mean on that? That just if you starting from your dream or from your passion, then you will be successful. If you just want to start a business just to sell and to receive money, yes, you maybe will successful, you will have some money, but it will not business for 10, 20 or 30 years. That's why it's one of the main diversity, our diversity from others who teaching entrepreneurship. Yes? Okay? Yeah? Question? Thank you very much.
So this is actually the example for everyone. You are saving your battery all the time. Okay, so this is just one example how our partners can collaborate in regards to developing joint research, joint programs, and new project ideas. So thank you to Kharkiv National University and Ilya State to take this initiative.
Very good.
This signing, and of course it's always nice to sign agreements and contracts, but I'm expecting the first outcome of this agreement to have in the ANet newsletter, and you are going to write us about it. So when the first exchanges of teachers, of students, of maybe business, that might be, yes. Who's going to be the next university that is going to sign an agreement? Who's going to be? Who's thinking about to sign agreements? Peter, the Peter University, yes. University of Filming, and what other universities are there? I think must be Chernivtsi with IXA. With great pleasure. Okay. Yes, thank you very much.